Let's get it, 580 Sports Talk, coming at you on a Monday. Hi, hello, how the heck are you? Hope you had a great weekend. Hope you stayed dry this weekend and this morning. And however you are consuming today's program, whether you're listening on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or checking out our live video stream, we welcome you in to the Kansas Drive to Zero studio for this edition of 580 Sports Talk. I'm Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis in the box with me. Trenton Kraxner, our summer intern, is across the glass. Brendan Dworzinski remains on vacation. He will rejoin the crew next week. And let's just address it right off rip. You're hearing my voice, so no baby yet, just to confirm. We are still, for myself and my wife, on baby watch. Due date is tomorrow. He has not made his presence felt early. So I am here and plan to be here with you for the next 4 hours. Spencer and Trenton will be one way or another. We've got you until 6 o'clock with a Royals off day today, 2 to 6. Lots to get to on the show. We appreciate you being along for the program today. And we welcome you into the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. All of us here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver. Use your rideshare app or plan ahead for a sober ride home. Our thanks to the folks at the Drive to Zero campaign, kansasdrivetozero.com, sponsoring the studio moving forward. Thanks for being here. Again, want to encourage you to interact with the program. One way you can do that is the Top City Metal Supply text line, 785-272-9429. You can also, of course, post in the live chat if you're watching us on YouTube. Subscribe to the YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk. Remember, if you aren't subscribed yet, no better time than right now because Brendan is on vacation, and we always get more subscriptions when Brendan's on vacation, a fact that Brendan himself finds particularly vexing. So while he's out, go subscribe to the YouTube if you haven't already. Click that subscribe button, search for 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. And when you subscribe, you can get notifications when we go on the air. You can see all of our live content and archive content. And boy, howdy, do we have a lot of it. Check us out on YouTube. And when you're watching the show live on YouTube, you can participate in the live chat. And we appreciate you doing so. You can also comment if you're watching on Twitter. We're on Twitter at 580 Sports Talk, and we're on Facebook, WIBW News. You can comment in either of those comment sections as well. We see it all, and we look forward to interacting with you here today. Lots to talk about on this Monday edition of the program. Lots of Royals baseball, a conversation that will have much different vibes about it than it would have had the Royals not been able to complete the ninth inning comeback on Sunday. This is, at this point, the first real moment of adversity for the 2024 Kansas City Royals. They had dropped 6 out of 7 going into yesterday's game. They were 3 outs away from being swept for the first time all season and 3 outs away from losing 4 games in a row for the first time all season. And the Royals said, not today. A rally for a 4-3 win over San Diego, salvage a game from the weekend series, and have a happy flight to Cleveland, maybe most importantly of all, where the Royals play their biggest series of the season to date starting tomorrow night at Progressive Field against the first-place Guardians. Lots of Royals stuff to get to, including what we saw in the series from the Padres over the weekend. A lot of talk about the bullpen, and I'm just going to be honest, it's not all going to be positive. In fact, very little of it is going to be positive because there is very little positive to say right now about the Royals relief corps, who over the last week has posted an ERA that I believe is north of 8, which is not what anyone wants. Are there reinforcements on the way worth getting excited about? What is the main problem? Why is this Royals bullpen struggling so much? And we'll have an answer for that question beyond, well, all these guys stink. We'll have a little bit more of a nuanced answer to the question than that. We'll talk about Sunday's hero, Nelson Velasquez, and whether or not he has earned a larger opportunity in the everyday lineup moving forward. Also, have to address the Michael Wacha injury. Michael Wacha pitched 5 1/3 innings on a broken foot on Friday night. First and foremost, that's gangster. Like, that is an act of real toughness to pitch into the 6th inning on a fractured foot. But that is going to cost Waka some time. Where do the Royals go with that spot in the rotation? Looks like Daniel Lynch will get the first crack. Can they survive a meaningful injury to their starting pitching rotation? We'll discuss that later on in the show. So lots of Royals stuff to talk about today. If you're a Seam head, you're going to enjoy today's show. And the Royals won't be the only baseball team we're talking about. No. How about those super Batcats? K-State heading to a super regional for the first time in 11 years. We will have some thoughts on that as K-State, not only did they win the Arkansas Super Regional as the 3 seed in the regional, but they did it with a clean sweep, and they beat everybody who showed up.
Yeah.
The grown man sweep, if you will. They beat every team that was there. They beat, who did they? Oh, Louisiana Tech. They beat La Tech on Friday. La Tech.
There we go. Okay.
See, they get the number 5 seed, overall seed, Arkansas, in a thriller on Saturday.
Which might you let everybody know in case they missed it. There was rain in Fayetteville on Friday, which forced some things, and then there was a rain delay in the game. So they started that game on Friday against La Tech and finished it on Saturday.
Right.
And then had to play again Saturday night.
Right. And were able to overcome that and beat Arkansas on Saturday night. Then came back, didn't mess around with SEMO, who had also upset Arkansas earlier on Sunday afternoon. Didn't mess around with them, beat them 7-2. And so K-State is moving on into the final 16 in this college baseball season. They're going to play Virginia in the Super Regionals. We do not have game dates or times. They'll either start on Friday or Saturday. It will depend on how all of the other Game 7s turn out today. I think there are 4 Game 7s, might be a 5th, depending on how the Oregon State UC Irvine game came out. But once the dust settles on all of the regionals tonight, we'll know when K-State is going to play. But the fact that they are playing it all, pretty cool deal. First time in 11 years. The Batcats headed to a super regional. And Mark guessed correctly. I do try to dress accordingly sometimes on the show. Like the day after UConn won the men's national basketball championship, I have a old UConn logo pullover. I wore it. Like I try to dress appropriately, nod to current events if I'm able. And K-State big weekend, so I've got the Power Cap ball cap on. I got the vintage Willie the Wildcat shirt going here too. So just a nod to the outstanding weekend for Pete Hughes and the Wildcats. We will discuss that a little bit later on. Some NFL to get to as well. Justin Jefferson got himself a big bag. What does that mean for the wide receiver market? Who is going to be next to get paid? We'll discuss it, and we'll discuss it at the bottom of the 3 o'clock hour with our NFL insider, Matt Verderame, who will join us at about 3:35 or so. Plus, Good, Bad, Ugly from the weekend. A new month begins on What Is Wrong With You. We'll have our sports headlines, including a playoff roundup. Last one for a few days, with the NBA Finals not starting until Thursday, the Stanley Cup Final not starting until Saturday. So there will be a brief hiatus for the playoff roundup after today. Very brief, but it will exist. All that, your comments, your texts, your interaction with the show, were stuffed to the brim on this full Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. And again, we thank you for being with us. We will start with the boys in blue. Everything is connected over the course of 162 games. Friday's rally in the 9th inning. I got to be honest with you guys. I turned the game off. Trenton, you were there. You were there Friday night. Trenton Crack. No, Saturday. Saturday you were there. So Friday you were just watching on TV, Trenton. Did you turn it off at 11-3?
Well, actually, I was at my nephew's little baseball game, and we were driving home, and it was a 40-minute drive to my house, and the top of the 8th came up. The top of the 8th inning ended as we were pulling into my driveway. That tells you how the 8th inning went. So, yes, I did not watch the game when we got in the house.
That was an excruciating top of the 8th inning. The Royals giving up, I believe it was it 10 singles and the double by Cronenworth, 11 hits in total, I believe. And the Royals, when the dust settled, finally, they were losing 11-3. And I turned the game off. I put it on the College World Series, the Women's College World Series, put it on some softball. But the Royals rallied. They got within 11-8. They got the tying run to the plate. I thought Nelson Velasquez had tied the game. I cannot believe that ball didn't go out. I know that the ball doesn't carry as well at Kauffman Stadium as it does in some other ballparks, but still, off the bat, thought that puppy was gone, thought the game was going to be tied at 11, and we were going to be talking about one of the most dramatic games in Royals and Kauffman Stadium history. Alas, ball's caught at the track. The Royals lose that Friday game 11-8. And at the time, what it felt like was, just another ninth inning rally that comes to nothing, just like Monday in Minnesota, just like Thursday in Minnesota. Another ninth inning rally that shrinks the final deficit, but doesn't do anything other than that. A loss is a loss. But what San Diego had to do on Friday impacted what happened on Sunday. Because the Royals had rallied in the ninth inning, they had to go to their closer, Robert Suarez, on Friday. And Suarez didn't throw a ton of pitches on the mound, but when you're talking about a reliever's workload, remember, they got to get warm.
Yeah.
They got to get loose. They got to throw, high effort pitches in the bullpen just to get out there to the mound. And the fact that Suarez had to be used in a game his team was leading by 8 runs with 3 outs to go on Friday affected his availability for Sunday, particularly after he pitched the ninth inning with a 4-run lead on Saturday. So Suarez was down on Sunday. And that meant that when the Royals were down by 2 runs going into the ninth inning and staring down a sweep and staring down a 4-game losing streak, it was not Robert Suarez and his sub-1 ERA that greeted them. It was Yuki Matsui, who is having a fine year, but he's not Robert Suarez.
Yeah.
And 4 batters later, the Royals were celebrating. And Nick Lofton delivered the game-winning sacrifice fly after Nelson Velasquez tied the game with a pinch hit 2-run triple. So it's all connected. We talked about the resilience of the Royals, even in this difficult stretch, because even with the celebration yesterday, this is still 6 losses in the last 8. This is still a difficult stretch that the Royals are in the middle of, hopefully on the back end of as they go to Cleveland. But this is the first time all year that the Royals have had a losing full week of baseball. Monday to Sunday, a losing week. First one all season.
They went from what? They were like 8-2 in their last 10 at one point last week to begin the week, I think.
Yeah, they won 8 in a row.
Yeah, they won 8 in a row. So they were 8-2 in their last 10,
right.
And now they're 4-6 in their last 10.
Right. So
total flip.
But even in this stretch, the Royals have shown that late game resilience, like we talked about in the series against the Twins on the road, where they had the rally from 6-1 down on Monday, and they got the tying, or I think they got the tying runs on base and the go-ahead run to the plate in Tuesday's game. And then Thursday they rallied late and it fell short. Friday they rally incredibly from down 8, a game where they had taken Salvador Perez out of the game, and it's Freddie Fermin delivering a 2-run single off of Robert Suarez in the ninth inning to keep that rally going, to set the stage for Velasquez's near hero shot. But it was nice to see that rewarded on Sunday. Rewarded because of the circumstances created by their comeback on Friday, but then just rewarded in general with a win, with a walk-off victory in front of 21,000 plus, a good Sunday crowd at Kauffman Stadium. And again, the Royals have found a way to avoid being swept and avoid a 4-game losing streak. You do that. You stay out of those deep ditches as a baseball team. That's how you contend. That's how you stay in the race from April to September, is you make sure that those 3-game losing streaks don't turn into 4, 5, 6, 7-game skids. You know how it can feel when you're in a spiral. It can feel like you're never going to win another one. The Royals needed a good start from Cole Reagans yesterday. They need him to go out and be a stopper, and he was. 6 innings of 1-run ball. Credit to Michael King, who pitched exceptionally for San Diego. Credit to the Padres for rallying off of Angel Zerpa in the 8th. But the Royals put themselves in position with an outstanding outing from Reagans to try and win the ball game. And then in the 9th, against, again, a lesser reliever, they get the left-on-left base hit from Pasquantino. Salvador Perez draws a walk down 0-2 in the count. That never happens. But again, just a sign of how much different he is, how much improved his his approach is as a hitter this year. Then you have Velasquez with the tying triple and Nick Lofton with the sacrifice fly. Really good approach by Lofton, not trying to do too much, just trying to hit a fly ball, get a pitch up, hit a fly ball, win the ball game. And that's exactly what Nick Lofton did.
And this is something that, as somebody new, I'm not used to experiencing, but you, as somebody that covered the Royals, that's not something they've done in the last few years. The ability to come back, the ability to keep themselves in games when they're down, and the ability to still do what they did yesterday.
Well, it's two things, right? It's two things that help you do that. Number one is starting pitching. The old adage, right? You've heard this. Momentum is only as good as your next day's starting pitcher. And that's positive and negative. You know, your skid is only going to last long as the next day's starting pitcher doesn't deliver for you. The Royals have, of course, gotten exemplary starting pitching throughout this season, and yesterday was no different. It was a really strong start from Cole Reagans. I thought it was as good as he's looked really all year. I thought he was really, really good. I thought he was working both sides of the plate. I thought against a really tough lineup that makes you pay if you don't throw swing and miss stuff.
Yeah.
Which, again, we'll talk about vis-a-vis the bullpen in a bit. I thought Reagans was really, really good. So you need that. And then the other thing you need, and it's something that you develop as you go along in the season, is the belief that you're going to find a way to win a game. Why would the Royals have had that in a 56-106 season?
Yeah.
What business would they have had going into a ninth inning down by any amount of runs, thinking, oh yeah, we've got the juice. We've got the know-how. We've been here. We can turn this game on its ear and we can walk this thing off. The more you win, the more winning becomes a habit. And I think we are starting to see these winning habits manifest themselves even in losing efforts like we saw last week. They have lost again 6 of their last 8 games. But in those losses, I'm trying to think of, I believe it's 4, maybe even 5 of the 6. Royals have had the tying runs on base in the 9th inning. Like, they're not getting blasted. They're not getting those blowout, those 5+ run losses. They've got too much fight for that. And that's why, even though a game like Friday night still goes into the loss column, I think it's really revealing about where the mindset of this team is.
Yeah, it really is where they are, and it's something that you're not used to seeing from a team, which is why in the national spot from this team, excuse me, it's why in the national spotlight there's been some doubters, right? Throughout the last couple of weeks, people are like, this team isn't for real. They've just gotten out to a crazy start. But once these members of this team believe they can do it and continually come back, and even if they lose, they keep that mentality going through the weekend, the tough weekend at home when you're supposed to be at your best. The Royals have had a great home record. Well, they ran into some adversity over the weekend, and they just pushed through it and got out the other side yesterday.
It was a big win, and it just changes the tenor of things as the Royals approach what is, again, their most important series of the season to date. Their first meeting with the first place Guardians. That is Tuesday, Wednesday, Thursday, 3 games set.
Early games
at Progressive Field. Well, early for
in the
us.
Central Time Zone.
Yes, Eastern. Cleveland's on Eastern Time.
Yes.
I'm iffy on the time zones. Further we get east, the dividing line between Central and Eastern is an utter mystery.
It is.
So, big win, and it also helped that the Royals were able to gain a game yesterday. Washington finally took one off of Cleveland, so the Royals were able to get back to within 4 games with the win, so that made it even better. But the common theme, like, that's the good, right? They rallied, they salvage a game. Hopefully that's something that energizes this team and starts them in a good stretch as they head to Cleveland. That's the good news. Here's the bad. The bullpen is really in a bad way right now. The lack of strikeout or put away pitch ability really showed against this Padres lineup, because one thing about this Padres team is they'll hit a single. Like, they got power hitters in their lineup. Manny Machado's been a 30-homer guy. Fernando Tatis Jr. I think he was a 40-homer guy before the steroids. He be a 30-homer guy. They got some thump. Like, they got some guys who can hit the ball out of the ballpark. But when you watch them, particularly in that abhorrent 8th inning on Friday night, they were more than happy to just make contact. Just flick a line drive out over the infielder and in front of the outfielder. You just steer a ground ball through a hole. Like, that is what that lineup is built to do. Even a guy like Machado, who I think a lot of his negative reputation is deserved. I'm certainly not a Manny Machado fan. I think he's been a dirty player. I think he's been a bit of a brat in his career. He's not one of my favorite guys. But one thing I do admire about Machado as a player is he is willing to have the at-bat, a team at-bat. He's willing to have the at-bat his team needs him to have instead of swinging for the fences. Like the RBI single he hit yesterday. That was off of, was that still off of Zerpa? Or had they put, yeah, it was off of Zerpa in the eighth, where he got a pitch out over the middle. He didn't try to hit it 800 feet, shot it into right field, drove in the run. Like, their approach is really good. And they ate up the Royals bullpen this weekend, in particular on Friday. And when you only have one starter get you to the seventh inning, which was the case this weekend, as both Waka and Marsh took early showers, although certainly in Waka's case, you can't really fault him. The guy was pitching on a broken foot. But because you only get one starter through six, that's a major stress test on the parts of the bullpen that have struggled the most. Here are the numbers. These might be not safe for air. Reading these Royals relief numbers might be an FCC violation, might violate rules on profanity and decency. Might be indecent to read these, but I'm gonna chance it anyway here. By the numbers, the Royals have a team relief ERA of 4.44 that is tied for 24th out of 30 teams in baseball. We have talked about fielding independent numbers. Their expected fielding independent pitching number, 4.7, that's dead last. Their expected fielding independent numbers, that's basically what should be happening based on the peripheral statistics, walks allowed, strikeouts, home runs, what should be happening to the Royals bullpen. They've been lucky to even be as good as they have been, which again, not very, because their expected fielding independent pitching mark is dead last in baseball among relief core, among bullpens. 6.91 strikeouts per nine for the Royals bullpen. That is dead last in baseball. 3.86 walks per 9 innings. That is 22nd out of 30 teams. That's good for 1.79 strikeouts per walk. That is 29th out of 30 bullpens in baseball. Spencer, can you guess which bullpen is worse? I bet you can. Trust me, I know. I'm way too familiar.
The Rockies?
Yes, there you go. I knew you'd get there eventually. Now, the Royals bullpen has been good at one thing in particular, and that is avoiding giving up home runs. They've allowed just 0.77 home runs per 9 inning. That is tied for 5th. That is good. They've got some guys who keep the ball in the ballpark. That's a long-term recipe for success, sure. But all the other numbers put them in company you really, really don't want to be in, like, for example, the Rockies. There is not an active reliever on the Royals relief staff with more than 3 appearances who is striking out a batter per inning or better. Not one. Will Klein striking out 15 per 9 in his 3 innings. We'll talk more about Will Klein a little bit later on, because I do think that's an intriguing arm. But when
a little early to count.
It is. It's early. It's only 3 innings, right? Yeah. It's too small a sample size to get real excited. You can be intrigued, but yes. I don't know if I'm real excited. But the broader point here is that when you do not get strikeouts, you are subject to the whims of balls in play. And as good as the Royals defense is, and it's exceptional across the diamond, the Royals are one of the best defensive teams in baseball by pretty much any metric you want to use. Balls in play are dangerous. And a Padres team that has the approach that they have made those balls in play extremely dangerous this weekend and beat up the Royals bullpen some more. So it is a flawed group, and it is a major concern. I'm not going to shrug it off at this point and say, yeah, these guys will figure it out. No, we're 2+ months in. It's not a good bullpen. Like there's a couple of guys that I still think have space in the bullpen for them and will pitch better, but it's not a good bullpen. It is a concern. But the Royals are hardly alone in being a contending team with a major concern. And if it's me, I would rather my team's major concern be the bullpen, because it's the one that costs the least to try to fix.
Yeah.
And I think the Royals are still in a position where, especially because they don't have a ton of prospect capital as it is, being one of the lowest ranked farm systems in baseball, they will still be in position to upgrade meaningfully in the bullpen. And a lot of people out there, including friend of the program, David Lesky, and his Inside the Crown newsletter, are saying that there's a lot of urgency in the Royals front office. So honestly wouldn't be surprised if there's an impending move or trade that gets made sooner rather than later to try and address what has been a disappointing relief corps today. But yesterday's outcome certainly not disappointing, and the Royals victorious in that final game of their series against the Padres. We got plenty more Royals to talk about on this show. Matt Verderame is going to join us to talk NFL, bottom of the 3 o'clock hour. We got What Is Wrong With You. We're going to talk some K-State baseball. We got a jam-packed show today. Your text to the Top City Mail Supply text line and your YouTube comments as well. We're just getting started on this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk. All of us here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver. Use your rideshare app or plan ahead for a sober ride home. Visit kansasdrivetozero.com for more information. Do you know the Royals have 2 of the 10 most valuable players in baseball, according to wins above replacement, Spencer?
I did not.
They do. They have 2 of the 10 most valuable players in baseball right now.
Does that include pitching?
Yes, it does.
Okay. So I could see one. I knew for sure one.
Right. So I don't know which WAR calculation MLB Now is using with this tweet, the TV show on the MLB Network, MLB Now. I don't know if they're using the Fangraphs WAR or Baseball References WAR. The best way to separate the two, Baseball Reference measures what did happen. Fangraphs WAR measures what should have happened based on peripheral stats. Either way, According to this WAR calculation, Gunnar Henderson's most valuable player in baseball right now.
Makes sense.
Already worth over 4 wins. Season's 2 months old. Aaron Judge, who had a monster month of May, he's up to 21 dingers. That caught me off guard because I knew we got off to a slow start. And I was watching the game yesterday. I always love, it's one of my favorite things about going to a game, like going really early, is, they show the leaderboards, like who leads the league and what. Like, I always like looking at those. Like, they do it out in left field at Kauffman Stadium. Before the game, if you're there like an hour or so before the ball game, they run the league leaderboards in both the National League and American League, who leads the league in hits, batting average, all those stats. I always love looking at those because it's a cool snapshot of where everybody stands in the league. And it did not occur to me because I was looking at, they also show them on a scroll on the Bally Bar, watching games on Bally Sports. They got a little room. They show some out-of-town scores. And then the Bally Bar will show like league leaders. And they were showing the home run leaders. And Aaron Judge, 21. I was like, whoa. I knew he was having a good month. I didn't know it was that good. Holy cow. Anyway, Aaron Judge, 3.9 wins above replacement. He's second in the league.
Makes sense.
Bobby Witt Jr. is tied with Mookie Betts with 3.7 wins above replacement. That's pretty exceptional to be in that company if you are Bobby Witt Jr. Tied for fifth, Juan Soto. I can't believe the Padres just gave him away. And in typical fashion, the Yankees have 2 of the top players. Yes. Now, I shouldn't say the Padres gave him away because we saw Michael King yesterday. He's pretty good, but like, I don't care what you got back for Juan Soto. You know what you didn't get? Juan Soto. Yes. As somebody that got to watch him play, traded him. Yes, as somebody that got to watch him play but understood why they did it. It took me about a couple weeks to fully grasp what they did and why they did it. But then I understood it because they're starting to look good the other side. And the Nationals came out of a trade like that probably as good as you can. Yeah. Mackenzie Gore looks like a mid-rotation starting pitcher. CJ Abrams looks like a shortstop that could be really, really good with a high ceiling. Robert Hassel and James Wood were the other guys. I think, yeah. And then I think maybe Susana. Jarlin Susana. Yeah. He's having a good month. Yeah, so they came out of that. They came out of that like as good as you can come out of it. But you know what? They still don't have on their team Juan Soto. Yeah. Like, this is Ted Williams. We were all saying when he was 22, this is Ted Williams, and he's been traded twice, and he's having an unbelievable year with the Yankees, and they're going to give him so much money, and they should. They're about the only team that can afford him. Well, them and the Dodgers. Yes. The Mets, if they really want, anybody could. Anybody who says they can is lying. The Mets have a little mess to deal with in there, and they're a whole disaster. Anyway, Juan Soto, Kyle Tucker, having a great year for Houston, 3.5 wins above replacement. Seth Lugo is the most valuable pitcher in baseball. That makes sense to me. Today. I mean, you look at what his record is, what his ERA is, what he's done, and how many times innings. I was saying how many times he's gone 7+. Mm-hmm. Like, to me, that was the no-brainer when I was saying if it was a pitcher was involved, then it would be him. He's the 7th most valuable player in all of baseball, 3.2 wins above replacement. Ketel Marte and Shohei Ohtani at 3.1 wins above replacement. What makes Ohtani really interesting is that's all offense. Yeah, I was about to say, he literally is the DH. Does not wear a glove. That is all his bat. Like all these other guys, like Mookie Betts is a solid defensive shortstop. Bobby Witt Jr. is an exceptional defensive shortstop. These other guys, Juan Soto, not a great defensive player. He might be hurting his value with his glove. I don't know what his defensive wins above replacement number is. No, but it's okay because Aaron Judge is helping everyone out there. He is. That's true. But yeah, Shohei Ohtani all bat, and he's one of the 10 most valuable players. That's crazy to me. Rounding out the top 10, a couple of Boston Red Sox. Jarren Duran. I think that's Jarren Duran. It might be there's a few Durans, and they don't specify. But I was going to say Johan, but that's the pitcher. Yeah, I don't think it's Johan Duran because he's only been pitching for a few weeks. I don't think it's Ezekiel Duran for Texas. I think it's Jarren Duran from the Red Sox. Him and Tanner Houck, 2.9 wins above replacement. Those are the most valuable players in all of baseball. 2 of the top 7 of them are Kansas City Royals. That's a big part of the reason why they are 11 games above 500. Not listed, Nelson Velasquez. Baseball Reference says he's been worth minus 0.1 wins above replacement. So he's been worse than replacement. I still can't believe he didn't tie the game on Friday night. I can't believe that. If the Royals miss the playoffs by a game, I will be thinking about that ball dying at the warning track all winter. Maybe there will be a more painful loss to you Royals fans. Maybe there's more agony still to come. Who can say? But Yeah, I would say I will be thinking about that one for a while. But he had another chance to be here on Sunday. He took it, tying 2-run triple. I'm good with playing him in left field every day. It is time to give MJ Melendez a chance to get right in Omaha. It is not sacrilegious to send down somebody who has this much big league experience. The Royals, we talked about 2 weeks ago. The Royals did this with Mike Moustakas, and it maybe didn't fix him immediately, but it was good for him in the long run. The Detroit Tigers are sending down the former number 1 overall pick in the draft, Spencer Torkelson. He had 31 home runs last year. MJ Melendez has not done that in a major league season. This year, Torkelson's been terrible, and the Tigers are 4 games out of a playoff spot, and they've decided, hey, look, we got to get this guy right. Getting this player right in the minors is more important right now to us. We got to get somebody up who can maybe contribute, and we have to get this player on the right track because he's really important to our future. I just think it's time for the Royals to make that move with MJ. I was hoping he would build on his Thursday performance. He did not. Sometimes
teams wait too late. And I have experience with this. The Nationals just DFA'd Victor Robles, who they waited too long because he helped them win a World Series in 2019. And then after that, he's been literally like, I think a 150 hitter, not a 150, like around a 150 hitter. They waited too long, had to DFA him, and he's out right now. He signed with the Mariners. But, sometimes you wait too late, and that's what they did. They had to DFA him because they waited too long.
I think it's fine to let him reset for a week or two, even if it's just a week or two. Now, Nelson Velasquez isn't lighting the world on fire. He's 4 for his last 25 with 8 strikeouts. But you know what all those hits are? Extra base hits, a triple and 3 home runs. Like, I'll live with the lows if the highs are that explosive, if the highs are over the fence, if the highs are generating runs. Earlier on this season, there was a point in the year, I remember, because we talked about it. This was probably a month into the year where Velasquez was off to a really good start, but he had like a 439 batting average on balls in play. That was never going to last. And as that has gone down, so too has his batting average accordingly. But all of that was against fastballs. Like, he had a 0.000 batting average against anything that spun or changeup. Like, all the damage he was doing was on fastballs. Did you happen to notice what pitch he hit off the wall for that triple yesterday? It was a slider.
Yeah.
It was a spinner. It wasn't a very good slider, frankly, but it was spin, and he stayed on spin, and he rocked spin. So I think this is a player making some adjustments, making some strides. I don't think he's ever going to be even like a 260 hitter. He might only be about a 220, 230 hitter. But I'll tell you what, if he's a 230 hitter, hits 30 home runs, I want that in my lineup. I need that in my lineup in modern baseball. Ball go far, team go far.
Exactly.
We'll take another break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, how about those Bat Cats? We'll talk about them headed to the Super Regionals in the NCAA baseball tournament after this on 580 Sports Talk. Alpha Media is proud to partner with the Kansas Drive to Zero Coalition and encourages you to join Kansas fans with a plan. Always have a designated driver or other sober ride to and from your destination. Visit kansasdrivetozero.com. You watch any of the Batcats this weekend, Spencer?
I actually did. I watched a little bit of Friday night, and then it went into delay. So obviously I stopped watching. Missed Saturday morning.
You didn't
game.
sit there and watch the ESPN Plus commercial all night waiting for it to come back?
The ESPN Plus. I could repeat that if I heard it again. I can't right now because I've done too much stuff since then. But
the biggest games, the best teams, all the 30 for 30s.
Yeah, and then I tuned in a little bit of the Arkansas game, but I watched the last 3 innings last night.
Yeah, that's about what I watched too. I was, second screening, third screening it for most of the weekend. I will tell you this. Doing what they did to Hagen Smith on Saturday was hugely impressive. I don't think that Hagen Smith, who is going to go in the top 10 in the Major League Baseball entry draft coming up not long. I think it might be before the no, they do it around the draft now. The
All-Star break.
The All-Star break now. Yeah, they've moved it back. So it's in July. They used to do it like now. This was when they do the baseball entry draft. I'm still, I guess, not.
It is
used
July
to
14th through 16th.
Hagen Smith is a name you're going to hear called very early, potentially by the Royals at number 6 overall. Every mock draft I have seen has him going in the top 10. I'm not grinding mock drafts, but I've read my share. I've read more than the average. I've read more baseball mock drafts I would wager than the average person.
I haven't, only because I think the Nats can only pick 10th this year or something.
So I've seen Hagen Smith in the top 10 in every one of those that I have seen. So he's a very highly regarded pitcher, and nobody had done to Hagen Smith what K-State did with that 6-run barrage in the 5th inning on Saturday. Kalen Culpepper also going to hear his name called in the first round. Again, this is another one of those. Every mock draft I see, Kalen Culpepper is in the first round.
But look, you have to point back to Arkansas's game on Friday where they used a multitude of pitchers. I think 5 pitchers in the game. I think that ultimately helped them not have to worry much about Arkansas's bullpen depth, because they had their starter Mason Molina only went 2 2/3 innings. So you had to use 6 plus 6 1/3, or what is it, 7 1/3? What am I thinking? 3, 2, 4, 6.
Yeah, 6 1/3.
6 1/3 out of the bullpen in game 1. That is hard to come back from.
It is. And especially when you've got to win 3 games in a weekend, you'd like the pitching to break kindly for you. And it broke kindly enough that K-State didn't have to use too much of their pitching depth in that win on Saturday. They just used 2 guys. They went with their starter, and then they rode Tyson Neighbors the rest of the way home. And even though we got into a spot of bother there in the 9th, giving up the 2-run home run, he was able to pitch his way off the ropes and get that final out. And then that left K-State 3 arms that they really trusted. Ty Rule coming off of injury, who started and pitched really well. Then the left-hander, and they were holding JJ Slack back for late. And the other bonus that they got was they had to play Arkansas again. The Arkansas got upset by SEMO, and you could tell that was a team in that game that had the wind stripped from their sails by what Kansas State had done to them at home. I think they were 32-4 at home this year at that ballpark. So it was a tremendous, tremendous win for K-State on Saturday, and then they were able to follow it up, beat SEMO 7-2. That was a legitimately good SEMO offense, and K-State held them in check. They pitched a combined shutout into the 8th inning, gave up a 2-run homer, shook it off. JJ Slack came in relief and pitched out of a little jam in the 9th.
What a character he is.
Secure the win and did a backflip, on the mound.
He did like the Spider-Man on Saturday or something I saw they were talking about.
After the Nick English home run that ended up being the game-winning run, he threw himself into the bullpen wall. Yeah.
I have to say, I listened to a PU's post game from last night, and obviously college baseball is not something we pay a lot of attention to, especially because when it's starting, the Super Bowl's still going, and then it's the off season and then everything. I just didn't realize all the guys that stayed committed to this Kansas State team. He talked about the loyalty to this team, guys that had the chance to go play pro ball, get drafted, go to the transfer portal, that all came back this year
Mhm.
and all made that run possible. And I just, that kind of stuck out to me in his press conference.
Yeah.
The fact that they can continue to get things off their list of what they wanted to accomplish this year and getting to the super regional series. And it's all because the guys that stuck around with this team and stayed with it when you're in an era of baseball where money chasing is a big thing. And just to be brutally honest, whether you're going to sign a professional contract or transferring elsewhere to get NIL money.
They were a preseason top 25 team. And I know that it was frustrating when there were times this season when they did not quite play up to their potential. There was lots of grumbling about this team. Are they even going to make the tournament? Is Pete Hughes good enough at the in-game stuff as a coach? Because I don't think there's any questioning that the talent level of K-State baseball has gone up since Pete Hughes has been the head coach. K-State never had a first-round pick in program history. They're about to have their second in 4 years after Jordan Wicks was a first-round pick back in 2021. Kalen Culpepper's going to be a first-round pick this year. So the talent level has certainly increased. But with that comes the need to make the postseason, which they hadn't done for 11 years. They checked that box. And then do some damage in the postseason. And they have certainly done that, reaching a super regional. They're going to play Virginia in Charlottesville. Virginia, the number 12 national seed. They rolled through their their regional with little to no issue. Those games will be either Friday, Saturday, Sunday, or Saturday, Sunday, Monday. We'll let you know when we know. The NCAA is not going to schedule those until later on. But no, a tremendous...
Probably tomorrow at this rate.
Yeah, I think it'll be...
Or late tonight.
Late tonight, early tomorrow. We'll tell you about tomorrow's show, one way or another. We'll tell you.
There's one game gone final today as Evansville, I believe.
Yes, Evansville, the 4 seed.
Walked off East Carolina.
No, they didn't walk them off. They beat them by a run. But yeah.
They beat them 6-5, and Oklahoma State and Florida are in the bottom of the third scoreless.
So K-State, tremendous accomplishment for the Batcats. Going 3-0 in the weekend is also hugely helpful because it means you didn't have to go to a game 7. You didn't have to go to a elimination game, do or die. You stayed off of Tyson Neighbors other than the one game. Everybody only threw one game. So you've got a fresh component of guys going into next weekend, going into Charlottesville. Congratulations to K-State baseball.
And they just posted on their Twitter account, if you are in the Manhattan area and want to go see them as they arrive back to their stadium, they'll be there around 5 p.m. today. They just posted about 36 a minute ago now.
A lot of NFL talk, plus Matt Verderame, bottom of next hour, coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. It's 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk, hour number 2 on this Monday. Dan, Spencer, and Trenton is the power trio with you. Brendan Dworzinski on vacation. He'll be back next week. So glad you are with us, and so glad for our partnership with the Kansas Drive to Zero. Fans with a Plan. All is here at the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver. Use your rideshare app or plan ahead for a sober ride home. Shout out to Paul, who appreciates the new Safe Ride banner in the background. Can never stress that message enough. Amen to that, Paul. Thank you for being in on the YouTube comments today. YouTube.com/580 Sports Talk. That's the YouTube page. Search 580 Sports Talk. Subscribe if you haven't already. Brendan's gone. We always do great with adding subscribers when he's not around. So subscribe to the YouTube page if you have not yet. And you can watch us do the show, which is great fun for everyone. And you can be involved in the YouTube live chat with our usual group of rowdies that's in the YouTube live chat throughout the show. We appreciate you guys and gals for coming in and being a part of the show. That way, you can also watch us on Facebook. WIBW News is the Facebook page. You can watch us on Twitter, too. Our Twitter handle, 580 Sports Talk. Invite you also to text the program. Top City Metal Supply text line is 785-272-9429. That is 785-272-9429. Later on this hour, we'll do our weekend recap with the good, the bad, and the ugly, and we'll speak with our NFL insider, Matt Verderame. He'll join us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline at about 3:35 or so. We'll get Matt's latest Chiefs thoughts and his thoughts on the big NFL news of the day, which is where we're going to start this 3 o'clock hour. In case you have missed it, this Justin Jefferson got himself a big contract.
Yeah, he did.
That was terrible. Like, I'm not really happy with that. It was very corny, but it worked, but it was corny. Like,
a little too corny.
I want to apologize if anybody rolled their eyes at that transition. Brendan pulls off this just in.
He really does pull it off very well.
Yeah, he sells it a little better. I think he believes in it. He sells it a little bit better than I do, and I just didn't sell it. Anyway, this Justin Jefferson got himself a big old contract earlier today. He is now the highest paid non-QB in the NFL. It is a 4-year extension worth $140 million. That is $35 million per year average annual value. $110 million guaranteed, $76 million in new practical guarantees, $95.7 million over the first 3 years of the contract. That is more than Chris Jones is getting, $95.3 million in the first 3 years of his deal.
I do believe if he signed it today, if he signs it tomorrow, whenever he signs it, he's getting a big $88+ million check as a signing bonus, according to Adam Schefter.
It is a big signing bonus. It's also a decent percentage of the salary cap, though this is important context from Bill Barnwell of ESPN, that the average annual value for Jefferson, $35 million a year, it's 13.7% of the cap. And that's right about in line with where the highest paid receivers in the NFL have been in the past, like Larry Fitzgerald back in 2011 when he signed an extension, and Megatron. Why can't I come up with his first name?
Calvin Johnson.
I wanted to call him Curtis Johnson. That's wrong. Couldn't come up with his first name. Calvin Johnson, Megatron. What he got when he signed his extension in 2012. So it's about right cap-wise if you're going to pay a wide receiver this kind of money for them to be 13.7% of the cap, because certainly Fitzgerald and Johnson had their claim to being the best wide receiver in football in their day. Justin Jefferson has his. Let's start there. Spencer, is Justin Jefferson the best wide receiver in the NFL?
If he's not, he's one of the top top wide receivers right now in the NFL.
I'm asking you if he is.
I think he is. I think it's hard right now because he's a darn good wide receiver and he doesn't necessarily have himself a franchise quarterback that is locked in that they know of, like when he had Kirk Cousins, who could throw him the ball at any point he wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Now you're just seeing if J.J. McCarthy can be that guy for him. which is good in a way because he's able to make more money as a top flight wide receiver.
Right.
And you're keeping obviously the quarterback's numbers because he's a first round pick. He's got 4 years tied left to him that you don't have to worry about a big tier quarterback on your roster or on your contracts on your salary cap.
Barbara and Mark both making that point in the YouTube live chat. Barbara says Vikings aren't paying anyone else, are they? And
yeah.
Mark points out that they need to do this and they have a rookie quarterback. So the idea obviously is it's a big help for J.J. McCarthy, who you're not going to have to pay for another 4 years at least.
I mean, look, it's just like the 49ers are in, kind of, but they're in a different spot with it because they're kind of about to come out of it closer than they are starting it when it comes to paying other guys when your quarterback is on a rookie deal. But they're in a different spot because their rookie contract was worth about nothing.
Yeah, it's a 7th round rookie salary as opposed to a first round rookie salary, so it's even less against
the cap.
What
the Texans are doing.
Justin Jefferson went over 1,000 yards last year in just 10 games. It tells you how good he is. Actually averaged more yards per game this year than he did last season when he led the league in yards per game, led the league in catches, led the league in yards. 30 career touchdowns in 4 seasons. He is awesome. If there were a dispersal draft of wide receivers, I think he would be the first overall pick. I do believe that he is the best wide receiver in the game with respect to a lot of guys. There are a lot of guys out there. This is a really good era for wide receivers, and they're getting compensated as such. And Ian Rappaport points out that the wide receiver market isn't done via Twitter. Cowboys Pro Bowler CeeDee Lamb awaits a deal, as does Bengals franchise tag wide receiver T. Higgins. Cincy's other top wide receiver, Jamar Chase, also would like a contract, among others.
I mean, I just don't sidebar from this. How the salary cap isn't going up enough every year for your receiver to be the top wide receiver paid every year. There's going to be a time when we're going to hit that shelf and these players aren't going to be able to get paid what they think they're worth based upon the last number because the salary cap isn't going up at that rate. But that's a topic for another day.
Well, no, I think you're leading right into the next point for discussion I was going to throw out there, which is Justin Jefferson going to stay top of the market, top of the scale for wide receivers?
It all depends on how J.J. McCarthy performs. If he can't get him the ball, then he's not.
Well, I'm not talking about like in terms of his performance.
Yeah.
I'm talking about the salary here. I'm talking about the contract. I'm talking about the contract, $35 million a year, average annual value. Do you think that stays top of the market, top of the scale, that any other wide receiver is going to exceed that? Or is that just going to be the bar and every other team is going to say, look, like, hey, CeeDee Lamb, you're great. You're not quite as great as Justin Jefferson. We can do something approaching $35 million. We might even be able to do $35 million, but you're not getting more than Justin Jefferson. So that's what I'm asking. Is this like quarterback where the number's going to keep going up? Or is this like defensive tackle where Aaron Donald got the money and everybody looks and says, well, you're not Aaron Donald, so you don't get that kind of money? It wasn't like the next defensive tackle got to reset the market.
Yeah, I think that is where it's going to go. And I think if you're specifically CeeDee Lamb in Dallas is going to go to him and be like, this is what we can offer you if you want to have a franchise quarterback. Because
they are in a different circumstance.
They're
because
in a very different circumstance.
They're already paying Dak Prescott a lot of money, and now they've got to make a big decision on him. But CeeDee Lamb, which let me ask you, which player do you think has more touchdowns the last 4 years, Lamb or Jefferson?
Jefferson.
It is not Justin Jefferson. CeeDee Lamb has 32 touchdowns through the air the last 4 years.
I should have rethought that because, again, Justin Jefferson only played 10 games
last
year.
He did. He missed 7 games last season, and to this point, CeeDee Lamb has missed just 2 games in his 4 seasons. But CeeDee Lamb led the league in receptions last year. Like, CeeDee Lamb is really, really good. He's a first-team All-Pro. He is deserving of a upper echelon wide receiver contract
on this level.
But the point you were making, I think, is a valid one. Can the arrow keep going up and to the right for wide receivers, particularly from teams that are already paying their quarterbacks? Like, you look at the big contracts that wide receivers are getting right now, the wide receivers who are among the highest paid in the game. Tyreek Hill and Jalen Waddle for Miami. 2 is still on the rookie deal.
Yeah.
A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith in Philadelphia. Jalen Hurts is still on the rookie deal. The extension doesn't kick in until this year, I believe. CeeDee Lamb is a different equation. And so too are the Cincinnati guys, T. Higgins and Jamar Chase. And that's why it has never made sense for Cincinnati to pretend like they can sign both of those guys and also pay Joe Burrow. Unless you just want to put up some cool fantasy numbers and not worry about things like because Jamar Chase's numbers are pretty comparable to what we've seen from Justin Jefferson. So that is a fascinating element of this to me, is if the market continues to increase for wide receivers, you would think it would be receivers in the same sort of circumstance that Justin Jefferson finds himself in. One, undeniably great. Like, we're talking about the first 4 years of Justin Jefferson's career are among the best for any wide receiver who has ever played the game. And it is a glide path to Canton from here for Justin Jefferson. But he's also on a team that has just taken a quarterback in the first round. So obviously they believe in J.J. McCarthy. Otherwise, you don't draft him in the first round, but you don't have to pay him much. So like we've always talked about, and I've continued to make this analogy, and I'm sure I've used and made this analogy so much that you can almost repeat exactly what it is that I'm about to say out loud. Having the quarterback on the rookie contract is like playing the game on easy mode. You don't have to make hard decisions. You just pay your elite talent whatever it is that they're worth, and worry about the repercussions of that later on.
And this is why the Chiefs front office is just so great. What they're able to do to be able to re-sign guys on top of having Patrick Mahomes' amazing, huge contract that he fully deserves.
And being able to see where this was all going, because the Chiefs traded Tyreek Hill, and Tyreek Hill set the receiver market with his deal. For the record, when Ian Rappaport says Jamar Chase would like a contract among others, you know who he's referring to in others? Tyreek Hill. That despite Tyreek Hill saying 14 what it
kind of like the Phillip Rivers,
what it sounds
not
like.
with the same person.
So he's going to want a new deal. He reset the market when he got 30 value. What did Jalen Waddle get? Can you look that up, Spencer? I'm asking you because I'm having a momentary lapse in internet connection over here on my end, and I don't know why I can't make it work and you can. But Jalen Waddle just got a pretty big contract too. Am I correct?
A 3-year, $84.75 million.
Okay, 84.75. That's not the guarantee. That's just the total
what
amount.
Spot Track is giving me and the 76 is guaranteed.
84.5. You said?
Yes, 7.5.
84.75. So either way, it doesn't change too much. About $28 million a year.
Yeah.
So
signing bonus for him was 18.8, 76 million guaranteed, and the average annual 28.25.
Okay. So he got that kind of money, and the Dolphins are gonna have to pay Tyreek Hill or not. But again, they're
just banking on him following through on his word.
Yeah, I'm sure they really believed when he told 8-10 in Kansas City last year that he was going to retire. Yeah, I'm sure the Dolphins believed it. I'm sure they were convinced that was exactly what was going to happen. So that leads me to an even broader question here, because like I pointed out, the Chiefs could see where this was going.
Yeah.
2 years ago, Brett Veach could see where the receiver market was going and understood that paying Tyreek Hill was not something they were going to be able to do while still maintaining guys like Travis Kelce and Chris Jones and being able to be roster flexible elsewhere. They just weren't going to be able to pay wide receiver $30 million a year.
And I think they continued that way through this year in this offseason and signing Hollywood Brown. And Brett Veach is on the record saying, we hope that he can turn it, because he's kind of had a downturn in his career with Kyler Murray getting hurt and just everything that happened there in Arizona for him, where he hasn't put up the numbers that he wants to get the contract. This is kind of a 1-year thing that'll set both of us up in good spots where it gets help there with their rookie wide receiver. You understand what I'm saying?
It's all of a piece where the Chiefs hope to get top wide receiver production for less than top dollar, because the top dollars the Chiefs are doling out are to their quarterback, who is going to, he's going to be in line for a restructuring and an extension, and he's going to get even more money.
He already took some money, did some things this offseason, I believe.
Yeah, he did. And they'll do that every offseason. They'll move money around to make things work out. But eventually there's going to be another alteration to where he is paid accordingly. I don't in terms of quarterback salaries. I'll take a little less so we can put a championship organization around me. I don't think Mahomes is, if he doesn't, but so much money. Do you?
They're not going to. They got a rookie contract right now with Rashee Rice. I don't think they're going to give him a big contract unless he changes his life.
Yeah,
unless he doesn't
off the field, doesn't he?
And he's got to get better on the field as well. Like, he was good last year, but he's not. They got Xavier Worthy, who could be that guy. He could be the guy that in 4 years we're talking about that they actually paid a wide receiver.
So the advantage of drafting Worthy where they did is that you have the extra year of team control. You have that 5th-year option. But let's say Rashee Rice has a probably not going to play all 17 games. But if he has a breakout 3rd year, and I think that Rashee Rice has the potential to be not a player of Justin Jefferson's caliber, but a guy who's a consistent 1,000-yard a season threat. How valuable are the Chiefs going to make that player? Are there going to be a lot of wide receivers who get second contracts even from the Chiefs, particularly if the wide receiver wage scale continues to go up in this fashion? I think it might be two different questions, because I do think at some the Bengals are finding this out right now. You're not going to be able to keep the quarterback and all his weapons. You're going to have to make a choice. You can do 1-and-1. You can do the quarterback and a wide receiver. But then you're going to have to make some sacrifices elsewhere if wide receivers are making more money than any other position on the field. And that's relatively new, right? It used to be left tackles. Left tackles were the guys who made the quarterback money, or the most non-quarterback money of anybody. They were the position that was the most valued. Then it became edge rushers, because there were so many good tackles out there. You had a guy who could win on the edge, then that was the position that you really paid for. Right now, it seems like wide receivers are the position that's getting paid astronomically. How long does that last? And if it continues, if that arrow keeps going up and to the right, how does that inform how the Chiefs build their wide receiver core? because it sure seems like they're going to be content to do it through the draft and do it through 1-year contracts like the Hollywood Brown thing, because they now know they took clowns to the Super Bowl wide receiver.
I was just going to add
clown car full of wide receivers and won the championship, because they can do that because their quarterback is Patrick Mahomes and nobody else can say that.
I was going to say, you even could take that to an even more extent and just find guys like the players that were on their team last year to pick up at free agency for a bargain.
Right. Like the 1-year prove it deals. Like they gave Juju a 1-year deal. That worked out. If Hollywood Brown is as productive as Juju Smith-Schuster was 2 seasons ago, that's a win.
Yeah.
That's a win for the Chiefs if he can be that kind of player. And then, it's going to be second-round picks, late first-round picks, guys that aren't going to count huge against the salary cap. Maybe things are different once Travis Kelce inevitably moves on. Maybe then it's a different conversation. Maybe then you've got a little bit more money in your pass catcher pool, and you decide to give a second contract to a Rashee Rice or somebody in the future whose name we're not even thinking of yet because they're not even draft eligible, but somebody who the Chiefs take on day 2 and is productive and has a good rapport in the system and a good rapport with Mahomes. And you can do a second contract for a player like that. But as far as superstar wide receiver money, I think if Tyreek Hill didn't get it, I have a hard time seeing any wide receiver in a Chiefs uniform getting that kind of money as long as Mahomes is a quarterback. I just think that is where the Chiefs are going to decide, we'll make this work on a year-over-year basis. We'll find a way. We'll find a prove-it deal here. We'll find a day 2 or a day 3 draft pick there, and we'll make it work because we got 15. And there are 31 other teams in the league that do not have 15, and so you better make sure your pass catchers are on point. You better make sure you get your rookie at Justin Jefferson. If you've got one, you keep one. And that's how we arrive where we're at, with wide receivers now getting $35 million a year. Justin Jefferson the first, and he's not going to be the last. We're going to take a short break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, the recap of the weekend with the good, the bad, and the ugly on 580 WIBW. Before we get into the good, the bad, and the ugly from the weekend, want to let you know that all of us here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver. Use your rideshare app or plan ahead for a sober ride home. Good, bad, ugly. Spencer, we'll start with your good. What was it?
I forgot that I had a gift card to Boot Barn.
Sick.
A little bit left on it.
Found money. Literally.
Yeah, literally found some money. So, and I knew, when I moved here, I saw that Boot Barn on Wanamaker, but it just never popped in my head that I had a gift card left and that I would use it.
There you go.
So I went and bought this hat, new shirt yesterday.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yellowstone National Park is what that said.
Yeah. There's a nice buffalo on there. Never been there, but I like the buffalo. I want to go.
I lived like 90 minutes from Yellowstone for a year, my first job in radio, and I never went.
Oh,
I always thought I'd have time, and then I got another job and moved on and never made it happen. I went up to Cody, Wyoming. That's like the gateway to Yellowstone, and I never actually went to Yellowstone, and I still kind of regret it to this day. My good from the weekend, it's the Batcats. K-State, preseason top 25 team, and playing to their potential at exactly the right time. That win over Arkansas was incredible on Saturday, a thrilling game, a great finish, and to put it all together and go 3-0 in that regional is tremendous. And look forward to seeing how the Cats fare against Virginia this coming weekend in the Super Regionals. Again, game dates and times still to be announced. What was your bad for the weekend?
I thought my Washington Nationals could help the Kansas City Royals this weekend, and they didn't really help them as much as they could have. And they wasted a darn good Patrick Corbin start on Friday where he went 6 innings and only gave up 2 runs.
Wow.
But the bullpen just gave up 5 runs themselves. So that's where that went. And then Saturday, they could not win. They lost 3-2, but yesterday they won. So they helped them 1 out of 3 a little bit, helped them stay where they were, I guess, because they both went 1 out of 3 in their series, respectively.
My bad. I've been dealing with a lot of dead squirrels lately. We got a lot of squirrels in the neighborhood because we got a lot of trees in the neighborhood, and we got a lot of trees in my house. And sometimes those squirrels run into the road and they get hit and they die. And I have never hit a squirrel, knock on wood. Hope I never do. But there was a dead one out in front of my house. And then the next morning, it was in my driveway. And I don't know who put it in my driveway. Probably like a feral animal, maybe an outdoor cat, dragged it over there. But whoever did it, animal or human, I didn't appreciate it. I didn't appreciate having to put a dead squirrel in my trash can. Now I got to wash out my trash can because my trash can does not smell nice. And I know trash cans aren't supposed to smell nice, but that one really doesn't smell nice. Anyway, I don't really have an ugly, but I know you do. Go ahead.
Yeah, I have a very annoying ugly. I'm not going to use the name of this business. Let's just know they're a very big business in the world, and they rhyme with Walmart.
Okay.
I'll just leave it there. So
right.
I had left Walmart and I got a call from my mom trying to get off their phone plan or get a new phone, trying to figure all that out. So instead of going on to Wanamaker and talking while I am looking at something, I was like, you know what, I'm going to be smart and pull back over into the parking lot because I still can. So at the bottom of this Walmart parking lot, and I'm sitting there on the phone, and all of a sudden 2 carts from a cart corral that are connected come in, run into the side of my car, and leave the worst dent you've ever seen for a cart. Like if you saw this dent, you wouldn't expect that a shopping cart did this.
It's a bummer.
And I went to put the carts back in the corral that was 3 spots away, and somebody must have tried to put them on the backside because this cart corral only had one side to it. But there was like the other side broke, so there's a little bit left, so somebody must have not wanted to, was a little lazy putting it back.
Don't be lazy with your carts. I judge people based on whether or not they put their carts in the cart corral. If you don't do it, prison.
And a big gust of wind hit my car, so I put them back, and on their little cart corral it says we are not responsible for any damage to vehicles or other property. So here I am. If anybody listening out there in radio world or YouTube live stream world knows a body shop in Topeka that's not going to kill you or need to go through my insurance to help me out with this, probably like 3 little dings, but enough that it's not easy for me to take it out. you can hit the Top City Metal Supply text line
Yeah, help Spencer
or the
out.
YouTube chat.
785-272-9429. Help him out.
But yeah, that's my ugly for the weekend. And I have to look at it because it's right below my driver's side door.
That's a bummer, man. All uphill from here. We got Matt Verderame joining us next to talk some National Football League on 580 Sports Talk. Alpha Media is proud to partner with the Kansas Drive to Zero Coalition and encourage you to join Kansas fans with a plan. Always have a designated driver or other sober ride to and from your destination. We are proud to welcome in on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline, Matt Verderame, covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com, also part of the Kansas City Sports Network's That Football Show, and puts out the Matt Verderame Show on his Patreon. Check that out. Find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame. Matt, Justin Jefferson got the bag. I believe it was exactly the number you told us it was going to be, $35 million a year. Who's next to get a big wide receiver contract then? Is it going to be Lamb? Is it going to be Chase? Who do you believe is next in line after Jets?
Not somebody who plays for the Bengals. I mean, historically speaking, they're not getting paid next. So I would say the Cowboys and CeeDee Lamb. I think we're on the clock at this point. Look, I mean, I don't understand. You know, Jerry Jones has a very weird history when it comes to paying people. He typically pays them, especially stars. But, you know, you look back and, like, they paid Ezekiel Elliott $90 million. They paid him 2 years early, and there was no reason to do it. CeeDee Lamb should have been paid months ago. I mean, you could even argue earlier than that. Like, they should have paid him when he was eligible, like the second he became eligible. If I'm CeeDee Lamb, if I'm his representation, I'm saying, yeah, this is great. This is what I want. I want this contract. And they're going to have a hard time not giving it to him. I mean, maybe, depending on how they structure it and incentives and whatnot, they can get it to where it's a little bit less. But it's going to be up there. I mean, it's going to be more than A.J. Brown got, which is $32 million a year. And I bet you he's in the neighborhood of $100 million guarantees at a minimum. And so, yeah, I think Lamb is next. And this makes things very interesting with Jamar Chase and Bengals. Like, Higgins is never going to approach this money, nor should he, but they're not going to pay him regardless. Like, Jamar Chase, he really wants to. Like, he's not going to hold out. He's still got a couple years left in his deal. Like, he's going to eventually report. But if he really wanted to, he could really draw a hard line in the sand here and say, look, you're going to pay me. And I'm getting more than Justin Jefferson if it's a year or two from now because the cap's going to go up. And are they going to do that? Are they going to pay that guy $100+ million for the totality of the deal? I don't know. I don't know if the Bengals are going to do that. They are not big on giving out guaranteed money.
Is it the point, this $35 million a year for Jefferson? Is this where the arrow stops going up and to the right for wide receiver average annual value? Or do you think that there's an even larger market forthcoming, an even bigger deal coming from maybe Chase if he were to somehow hit free agency, or maybe Lamb? Or do you think this is kind of where the market gets capped a little bit on wide receivers?
It's a good question. I think if either one of those guys got unrestricted free agency, they would reset the market. Because you have the leverage. You have a bidding war. I don't think that Ayuk or Higgins is going to touch $35 million a year. That I don't think is happening. I mean, unless one of them goes out this year, just first team all pro or something like that. If they play at their normal, reasonable level, I think they're going to be more around Jalen Waddle's money, maybe a touch higher based on the market going up and having different shooters. But, I think the real question here, and it's something I'm going to dive into at some point here for SI, if you're a team that has a really good receiver, not a Justin Jefferson, but more like a Brandon Ayuk, are you going to pay that guy $30 million a year? Are you going to pay that guy $90 to $100 million guaranteed? Or are you going to say, look, the college game is churning out more top 75 prospects than ever before at receiver. We're just going to take one of those guys. We might even take one of those guys a year, one receiver in the top 3 or 4 rounds every year. And we're just going to sit there and say, hey, you know what? We've got you for 4 or 5 years of team control, depending on the round, plus a tag or two, and we'll let the next team pay you. We're going to turn receivers into running backs just in a little bit of a different fashion because they're going to always be a little bit more important based on the way the game's played now. I just wonder if we're reaching a tipping point where teams are going to start to say, we're not going to pay you $30+ million to be a receiver. That's just not going to happen unless you are the Justin Jeffersons of the world. I think that's an interesting conversation to watch moving forward.
I'm going to look very much forward to reading what you write about that, because that was going to be my next question. If we were going to get to the point where wide receivers are viewed as a little more disposable, or if it's as simple as teams are going to have to make a choice. You can pay a wide receiver top of the scale, or you can pay the quarterback, but you might not be able to do both.
Yeah. And look, I think the cap, obviously, everybody always points out, and rightfully so, the cap continues to rise, and God knows the NFL is not hurting for money, so the cap will continue to go up, in some cases substantially, and you'll have new TV deals and everything else that continue to pop up. We just saw Netflix, infuse money into the league. That being said, at some point, there does become a little bit of, okay, look, we can only pay you this amount and you this amount, and everybody else has got to kind of fit in that pie. And if you look at the markets by position, quarterbacks, of course, are way ahead. After that, right now, it is edge rushers and it is receivers. And then there's another drop off. And then you get into, okay, the corners are on top of the markets at $22 million. Tight ends are below that. The guard market really spiked this offseason. I think that's going to level off a little bit. And then, of course, you have offensive tackles who, can command mid-20s. I suspect that what we're going to see happen is the corner market's going to catch up to the receiver market. I mean, it makes sense if you stop and think about it. Like, well, those guys are covering these receivers, and there are not as many corners coming out of college as there are receivers. Not anywhere near the level of talent at corner. And so I think, guys like McDuffie, by the time he signs an extension, he might be looking at the high 20s per year. Sauce Gardner, Surtain, and those guys are easily going to reset the market from where it's at. And no offense to L'Jarius Sneed or Jalen Johnson, those guys are better players. So that's where I do think some of that money might go. It might go from the receivers to the corners, and then all of a sudden you start looking at it and going, all right, well, I'd rather take a receiver at 20th overall and hope I'm right. And if I am right, that guy's cheap for 5 years, and if I have to, I could tag him twice, and at that point, you're 30. Go get paid somewhere else. What do I care? I think that might be the future here at the position.
One last thought on the wide receivers, Jefferson in particular. If there were a league-wide dispersal draft of wide receivers, if no wide receiver were on a team and the teams were just lining up to draft them, does Justin Jefferson go number 1 overall?
Yes, I think he would go number 1 overall. I think Tyreek Hill's got an argument, but Jefferson's younger than Tyreek Hill. And there's not the background that there is for Tyreek Hill. Yeah, I think Jefferson would go number 1. AJ Brown's up there. Listen, and maybe in time, Puka Nacua, we'll see. But yes, I think Justin Jefferson right now, I think he's the best receiver in the NFL.
We're joined by Matt Verderame of Sports Illustrated here on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits Hotline. And Matt, it's been an interesting offseason for Giants tight end Darren Waller. According to ESPN, multiple people, including Schefter, reporting that he's expected to retire from the Giants after he's not been involved in any of the offseason activities. Is that the impression you're getting from people that you've talked to near the Giants organization?
I think it's been, as you mentioned, look, he's obviously gone through a lot here the last couple of years, and this offseason in particular with away from the field stuff, personal stuff, but he just can't stay healthy. I think that's the other part of this. I mean, realistically, look, his contract's coming to a close soon. He got 3 years and $50 million, if memory serves me right, from the Raiders. He traded him a year into the contract. Now he's with the Giants. Last year was a disaster. He's not getting paid after this. I mean, he's in his 30s. He's constantly hurt. I think if you're Darren Waller, you're probably just looking at this thing going, you know what? I mean, I've gotten generational wealth. He has turned his life around from when he was drafted by Baltimore many years ago, and he went through all kinds of off-the-field issues, dealing with personal stuff. I just think if you're Darren Waller at this juncture, I mean, look, maybe even take a year away and try to just get everything in order. But I just wonder if you're Darren Waller, you just look at it and go, you know what, I've accomplished a lot in the game. I have the wealth that I probably never dreamt of. I'm happy where I am.
Switching gears now to the Chiefs, a lot was made at the end of last week from the assistants meeting with the media, including special teams coordinator Dave Tobe, kind of illustrating what the new kickoff rule is how it's going to work for them, including safety Justin Reed might be kicking off some this year, and he detailed that during his press conference. What about this new kickoff rule do you understand, and how do you understand that would work out?
Well, I actually, it's funny. A couple days before they announced it, I was talking to some people that super followed me on Twitter, and we were going through this whole thing. I said, I wouldn't be surprised if the Chiefs play a position player there, specifically Reed, based on the fact that he can kick, and he's proven that, that he can do it. Look, with this new rule, the kicker's going to have to be involved in some tackles. Dave Tope talked about the fact that kickers, when they looked at the XFL kickoff, which is what they're inheriting, that the kicker was involved in the tackle 25 to 40% of the time. Well, you sure as heck rather have Justin Reed involved in that tackle than Harrison Butker. And when you look at this rule, and it is a difficult thing to understand. I know with our SI NFL preview, not to spoil it, but I think we're gonna have some literature on that. We're also, I think, gonna have like a diagram in the magazine to show people like this is what it looks like. You are really penalized if you have a touchback. I mean, the other team's taking the ball at the 30-yard line, so you're going to want teams to have to field the ball, and then you make the tackle. Now, the challenge is, with Butker, you feel a hell of a lot more confident about directionally kicking the ball. You don't feel that confident about Justin Reed doing it, which Tobe touched on in his presser. At the same point, you want that extra guy. I mean, you're 11 on 11 now all of a sudden with Justin Reed kicking the ball. So it'll be very interesting to see how they weigh that. And I wonder, too, with the Chiefs, considering how good they are, do you play some teams that are offensively challenged and you just say, look, we don't care, take the ball to 30. Like, we're not gonna worry about, the Panthers having the ball at the 30, the Broncos having the ball at the 30, maybe even the Raiders having the ball at the 30. Whereas if you're playing Baltimore or Cincinnati, maybe you are more apt to say, hey, you know what, we're gonna try and kick the ball short. And as Tobe mentioned, hang time doesn't really matter anymore because you can't run down and cover the kick until the ball either hits the player or hits the ground. So it makes no difference how high you hang the kick. What matters is that you can get off of a block and make a tackle, and that's what Justin Reed can play.
And kind of piggybacking off that, he kind of a little bit discussed what the Welsh rugby guy, Louis Rees-Zammit could have an impact on that. Do you think that having a guy like that is used to kind of doing some interesting stuff, do you think that in his first year, Rees-Zammit could make an impact in the kicking game as he already probably will in the return game like that?
Yeah, I mean, no question. No question. Look, the Chiefs seem to be very prepared for this role. You know, I mean, between Justin Reed, it's just kind of just dumb luck. I mean, obviously, I didn't know that was going to happen years ago. Rees-Zammit, I believe firmly, the reason he's there is because of this kickoff, both in covering it and in returning it. This is a rule that, in my opinion, I said this on my podcast this morning, and I believe this deeply. The first quarter to the first half of the season, whoever adapts to this role faster, this is going to win and lose games for teams early in the year. There is absolutely going to be a team or two that lose games based on the fact that they just have no idea how to cover this thing. And they're giving up massive field position. They're giving up touchdowns. And there's going to be a team on the other side of the coin, or two or three teams, that they are well schooled and they are well prepared and they figured out the best way to handle this. And they are just killing teams by just getting incredible field position or running it back the distance. Like this is going to be a significant change. This isn't a tweak. This isn't, hey, we're kicking the ball from 5 yards forward or 5 yards back. I mean, you are completely revamping what a kickoff in the NFL looks like in a way that it has never been revamped before. So I think the Chiefs are very much on the cutting edge, if you will, of having the advantage of Justin Reed at their disposal and also having a rugby player who is familiar with plays like this. It has to help them. It can't hurt them, that's for sure.
Couple of more quick questions. We've got about a minute and a half left with Matt Verderame of SI.com joining us on the Fleming Place Wine and Spirits hotline, as he does every Monday at this time, to talk NFL. If the Chiefs go with Trent McDuffie on the outside at corner and Shamari Connor, who we talked about at length last week, and it sounds like has a real chance to be the slot corner, at least in some matchups this coming season, who do you like best to start on the other outside corner spot for the Chiefs?
Jalen Watson. I think he's the kind of guy that, he's not overly fast. He's not a flashy athlete, but he's just a very good player. He is constantly in the right position. He has a nose for the ball. He's proven the first 2 years of his career that he's trusted a little bit more than Joshua Williams is. Now, that's not to say Joshua Williams can't play. I think he can play. But I think Watson, and I think both will play, but I think Watson is going to get more snaps as long as he's healthy. I mean, he played last year the entirety of the season from week 2 on to the torn labrum, and they still played him. They trust him. They know that they're going to get quality corner play out of him. And look, I think, with Shamari Connor speaking to people, around the team, I do firmly believe that he is going to play a good amount of snaps in the slot. Like that's going to happen. I don't think he's exclusively going to play there. And I think McDuffie's going to play there plenty too. But if they can get to a point where Shamari Connor is good enough to play in the slot consistently, that gives them the versatility that they had under L'Jarius Sneed, where now all of a sudden you can kind of dictate the matchups and not the other way around. Because the last thing the Chiefs want is to face a team like Cincinnati with Higgins and Chase on the outside and a guy like Trenton Irwin on the inside and McDuffie stuck guarding Irwin. They are good. I guarantee you in that game, if they're healthy, Connor is going to play a ton of snaps inside. And that's going to free McDuffie up to go play against Chase. And that's what they want to do, and I expect them to try to do that.
Matt Verderame covers the National Football League for Sports Illustrated, SI.com. Find him on Twitter at Matt Verderame and hear him Mondays on 580 Sports Talk. Matt, always a pleasure. We'll talk to you again next week.
Sounds good, guys. Take care.
That is Matt Verderame. We'll step aside. Coming up, lots more Royals talk in the 4 o'clock hour. 580 Sports Talk coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. Let's get it. Hour number 3, 580 Sports Talk on a Monday, coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This Monday edition of the program. I am Dan Lucero. Spencer Dupuis is across the table from me. Trenton Craxner, our summer intern, is across the glass from both of us. Brendan Dworzinski remains on vacation. He will be back next week. I remain not on paternity leave, for anyone wondering.
Which means there's no baby yet.
No baby yet. No, that is correct. If there were a baby, I would not be here. It is going to be a pretty simple equation. The time that you turn on the radio here,
and you just hear me
in this next week, and maybe you just hear Spencer. Yeah, you can safely assume at that point that I am with my wife and getting ready to start paternity leave. The due date is tomorrow. For those wondering, I have found it. And this may come as no surprise to any of you listening who've also been through the process of becoming a parent. I have found it very difficult to think about anything else other than the fact
I
that
could imagine
my wife's due date is tomorrow. And that doesn't mean baby will come on time. He may not be as punctual as either of his parents. It is fairly common, from what I understand, for the firstborn to come a little later, stay in the womb a little longer. But, yeah, it's been very hard to concentrate on anything else. So I've actually much enjoyed doing the show today. It's been a nice little distraction from all of the others. Like, I used to think it was silly. There are a lot of preconceived notions about what it is to be a parent that have been shattered for me in the last 9 months or so as we've ramped up to this. But I always thought it was a little silly when parents would, or soon-to-be parents, would talk about, oh, we just can't wait to meet our baby. I always thought that was silly. Like, meet him. I mean, he's just gonna like lay there and sleep and fill diapers for the first like 6-8 months. What do you mean meet him? Nah, man, I'm so excited to meet my son. You have no idea. You have no freaking idea how excited I am. So I get it now, and I apologize if I ever rolled my eyes at anybody who said that before. So just one of the many preconceived notions about parenthood, fatherhood that have been completely X'd out by the emotions and things that I have been going through here as my wife and I get ready to welcome our firstborn. So, but I'm here today, and I am glad to be here and glad to be here with all of you today, whether you're listening on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or watching the YouTube or watching the video stream. You can watch it not just on YouTube, though we love it when you watch on YouTube and get involved in the YouTube live chat, youtube.com, search 580 Sports Talk, subscribe, and watch the program. You can watch us on Facebook, WIBW News. You can watch us on Twitter, 580 Sports Talk. However you're consuming the show, we appreciate you doing so. If you are watching the show, you have doubtlessly noticed a new logo up in the top right. I'm going to point at it on the video. Kind of right there. Yeah. See? I'm pointing to it. That's the magic of video.
And I'll point to this one.
You point to the sign. Yeah, that's a lot easier to do. I can actually see what I'm pointing at there. You can see that we are proud to partner with the Drive to Zero campaign and Fans with a Plan. All of us here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver. Use your rideshare app or plan ahead for a sober ride home.
Hey, Dan.
Lots of great feedback for that so far.
That's what I was going to say.
Lenny says he's a fan, likes the poster. Vance says great sponsor for the show. So perfect sponsor, in fact.
Also, Lenny Dawson says credit to you. You're doing a great job while having your firstborn on your mind.
Well, I appreciate that, Lenny. Very much appreciate that.
Would you have imagined an account dedicated to the one and only Lenny Dawson would have told you that?
I would not have imagined that. No, that's that is the wonder of internet and the beauty of what it is that we get to do here. So thank you for the sentiment. Thank you all for the kind words. And appreciate you tuning in, and certainly appreciate getting to partner with Kansas Drive to Zero. Again, you can visit them online, kansasdrive20.com. Coming up in this 4 o'clock hour, we're going to have our first round of What Is Wrong With You stories for the month of June, and the latest from the basketball transfer portal. There's something new every day. K-State still active, trying to fill their final 2 spots on their roster. And a lot of rumors going around that we'll try and parse for you and discuss what it might mean for Jerome Tang's Wildcats as they continue to try to fill out the roster. Again, it feels like it should be too late, right? It feels like it should all be locked in. But remember, Arthur Kaluma committed to K-State on June 11th. last year.
We'll have an update about Arthur Kaluma as well.
Yeah, we'll talk about Arthur Kaluma. We have some latest on him, and we have some latest on some potential interest from some very talented players, among the best players still in the transfer portal that K-State is interested in, and that might have some mutual interest as well. But we're going to start with the Royals because, as we mentioned at the top of the show, the Royals did win on Sunday. It was a great win, dramatic win, 4-3. Always fun to walk off. It doesn't matter how many games you win in a year, whether you win 100 or whether you lose 100. The walk-off wins are the ones that are the most fun. Like, it is so much fun to win a game in walk-off fashion. Like, I still remember fondly games where my favorite team won in walk-off fashion in miserable seasons, just lousy seasons. The walk-offs always live in the memory, and they're always a good time, especially if you happen to be there at the stadium for one. So the Royals walk off yesterday, 4-3, but smaller picture, because bigger picture, this is still a team 11 games over 500, 4 games out of first place, huge series against Cleveland coming up. But this last week was the toughest week of the season for the Royals to date. And going back to last Sunday in Tampa Bay, Royals have lost 6 of their last 8. The bullpen has been a bit of a tire fire, and now the Royals are going to have to navigate an extended stretch without one of their veteran starting pitchers. Michael Wacha, in case you missed it, broke his foot on Friday night. I think it was the first batter of the game. Trenton's nodding at me across the glass to confirm. First batter of the game hits a rocket back off of Michael Wacha's foot, and the Royals don't get the out. Wacha stays in the game, pitches 5 1/3 innings. Turns out his foot's broken. So that's going to be an absence, and probably more than the allotted 15-day injured list. I would imagine this is going to be a longer absence for the veteran right-hander. The good news, if there is any, is that you are already, if you are employing Michael Wacha, not expecting him to make every start.
Yeah.
Michael Wacha last made 30 starts in a season in 2017. He was 25 years old then. We were all so much younger in the summer of 2017. Last year, Wacha threw 134 1/3 innings for the Padres. That was the most he had thrown in a season since 2017. So if you're going to employ Michael Wacha and do your due diligence on signing Michael Wacha, and I'm certain that the Royals did when they signed him, you are baking in the need to fill in the blank on anywhere from 5 to 10 starts that you're not going to get from Wacha. And again, I said this was good news to a point. At least a foot injury, you wouldn't expect it to reoccur. It's a freak injury. He got hit by a ball and a bone broke. It's not something you would expect to recur. And the other thing, too, is it isn't an arm injury.
Yeah.
So Wacha can actually theoretically come back faster from an injury like this. They were talking about him being able to do groundwork, throw with a knee on the ground instead of throwing, pushing off his feet, just to keep his arm active and keep his arm ready to go, so that maybe theoretically he can get back faster from a rehab assignment. He wouldn't have to do a lengthy rehab assignment if he's keeping his arm as fresh as he possibly can. So that's the good news. Like, if this were shoulder trouble, elbow trouble, it'd be really grim for the long-term outlook. I don't think the broken foot is a long-term concern. You would hope, anyway, that it would not be if the bone heals properly. So what do the Royals need to replace? Well, Michael Wacha is 4-5 on the season in his first 12 starts, a 4.24 ERA that his peripherals suggest he's actually performed or outperformed to a decent degree. He's got a 3.61 fielding independent number, so more than half a run better than his ERA, which again suggests that maybe hasn't had a lot of luck when he's been on the mound. 6 of his 12 quality starts had been, or 6 of his 12 starts had been quality starts. Yeah, 6 of his 12 quality starts. Yeah. 6 quality starts in his last 12. He had 4 in a row going into Friday, and then his streak was only snapped because he didn't go 6 innings. He only allowed 2 runs, a quality start, for those wondering, 6 or more innings, 3 or fewer earned runs allowed. He had 4 straight starts that met that criteria going into Friday. So he was in a really good run of pitching. He was throwing really well. I thought his start in Tampa was about as good as he'd been all season in particular. So the version of Michael Wacha that the Royals are trying to replace in the short term had been a version that was giving this team what it needs most from its starting pitchers, and that is length. We've talked about it at length, ironically, I suppose, that the best asset that the Royals starters have given, obviously they've all pitched well, but they have been able to get through 6 innings. They've been able to lighten the load on the Royals bullpen. So you're not having to see Chris Stratton in the 6th inning, for example. You're not having to see Will Smith pick up a high leverage inning or Nick Anderson try and work in a high leverage inning in the middle of a game. Michael Wacha has given that, and now that's what the Royals are going to need and miss the most from that spot. Daniel Lynch is going to get the first crack. He's already with the big club. He's scheduled to start at some point during this Cleveland series. Maybe he starts Thursday. Of course, with the off day today, the Royals could move some things around. They could start Marsh on regular rest on Thursday and move everyone up a day and then potentially not need Wacha/Lynch's turn to come up in the rotation again until the New York series. That would be on, if you went Marsh Thursday, Reagans, Lugo, Singer on the weekend, and then Monday you would need that 5th spot in the rotation to come back up again, that first game of the New York series. So that's a possibility, or they could start Lynch against Cleveland on Thursday.
Clearly they had a lot of possibilities going, because when we left the air on Friday, this injury had not happened yet, obviously, but we talked about Reagans potentially pitching tomorrow and pushing everybody back a day, but that didn't happen. So,
Right.
So they have a lot of opportunities with this off day.
And I sort of feel like they might have pushed Reagans back if not for the injury to Wacha.
I also think too, maybe they wanted to get a win in the series.
That's also possible. Like feeling like, hey, we gotta send our number one out there to be the stopper,
guy that stops the streak.
Yeah, make sure we don't get swept. And Reagans was great yesterday. It was terrific. So it's going to be Daniel Lynch at some point who replaces Michael Wacha's spot in the rotation. We've seen him start twice
last week, right?
This season. Yeah. We saw one start early May in Texas, or against Texas at the K, where he was really good, 6 shutout innings. And then we saw him in Minneapolis on what we can assume was fairly short notice because of the illness that Brady Singer was suffering. And it wasn't quite as good. He made it through 5. He gave up the 3 runs, 3 shutout innings to start. Then he ran into trouble, gave up the 2 home runs to Ryan Jefferson in the 4th and the 5th. What do you think, Spencer, about what we've seen from Lynch so far? Do you think that what you've seen from him is enough to think that he can hold the fort in this spot in the rotation and he can give you some quality innings for the next 2 to 4 weeks and maybe longer than that if need be?
I think so. And I think the more that he gets used to being back in the big leagues, it'll help, because obviously he was doing great for the start of the ball game last week. I believe he breezed through the first 3 and then he had trouble in the 4th and 5th. The more that he gets to face big league guys again, there's a difference. There's a difference between AAA and the big leagues and the guys you're facing for the most part. Yeah, maybe there's some guys down in AAA that were in the big leagues at one point, or there's guys on the cusp of the big leagues, but there's clearly a difference from AAA to the major league level that will take a little bit of getting used to being back in the position for Daniel Lynch, and I think he can do it. I mean, they did this right, I think. Instead of pushing him to the bullpen this year and keeping him in the majors and saying, you might be the guy gets the spot start or the long guy we're going to rely on out of this bullpen. They said, how about let's send you to AAA. Let's make you be a starter there, because it's a marathon. We know we're probably going to need you to start some games this year, especially in their head with Wacha. So I think they did the right thing in sending him down to AAA, and now he just needs to get into a rhythm. And I think he can be helpful while they need a guy.
So here are my biggest concerns about Lynch. I've always liked Lynch. I liked him a lot as a prospect, and I was really optimistic about him finding a home in the major leagues long term because he had the widest variety of stuff. He came up throwing in the mid 90s and also having the curveball, having the changeup, having the slider. He had the stuff, I felt like, to be a mid to back end of the rotation starter. Maybe not ace ceiling, but I thought mid rotation ceiling, like a number 3 starter. And like that's not chopped liver. Those guys pitch in the major leagues a long time. They get paid a lot of money. What has happened for Lynch, unfortunately, is the fastball velocity has diminished. And as a result, so has his ability to get strikeouts. In his first look at major league hitters back in 2021, he had 15 starts. They didn't go great. A 5.69 ERA, struck out 7.3 batters per 9 innings. 2022, in a full big league season, 27 starts, he struck out 8.3 batters per 9. Like, that's not elite by any stretch, but you work with 8 strikeouts per 9. Like, that's showing the ability to miss some bats, get a punch out. Last year, just 5.8 strikeouts per 9 in his 52 and a third innings. And this year, even in the minor leagues, that number's going in the wrong direction. Because at AAA last year, it was only 6 starts. AAA and AA, he struck out close to 10 guys per 9. This year, in his 9 AAA starts, it's below 7 strikeouts per 9. And I'm sorry to keep harping on strikeouts because I am a big believer that strikeouts, like Kevin Costner's Crash Davis famously said in Bull Durham, are fascist, and that ground balls are more democratic. I'm a believer in that. I think it's a more entertaining sport when there are more balls in play. I like watching games where there are more balls in play and fewer strikeouts. From that perspective, I don't love the pitchers who just exclusively hunt the strikeouts, but I'm also a realist. And the modern game, the way the game is played, the terms on which you are trying to get 27 outs, it's just a lot easier to get them if you don't include your defense and you just strike guys out.
Yeah.
So more strikeouts equals good, like naturally. And so that troubles me about Lynch is that the strikeouts have gone backwards. And it also troubles me that he hasn't shown consistently, and this was a problem for him last year too in the major leagues, the ability to go deep into games. Even this year at AAA, 9 starts, 45 and a third innings. I'm no math major, but that's almost exactly 5 innings per start. And again, it is so important for this Royals team, as presently constructed with their relative lack of bullpen depth, to go deeper into games, that I'm concerned that Lynch isn't going to give them the length they need on an every 5 days basis, which then makes it more incumbent on everybody else to get you deep into games. And it also makes it really important that you surround him in the rotation with guys who can get deep, because lately Alec Marsh has started to struggle getting you deeper into games. David Lesky in his free newsletter, Inside the Crown newsletter today, pointed out that batters have just stopped swinging at Alec Marsh's pitches. And as a result, his strikeout rate has gone the wrong way, and his ERA has really gone the wrong way. And maybe there's a book out on the rookie or the youngster, Alec Marsh. I don't think you want Marsh and Lynch back to back in the rotation if you can't trust either guy to get you into the 6th or beyond. So you might have to manipulate your rotation, and the off day gives you the opportunity to do that. The off day here is really beneficial as far as this goes for Matt Cotrero, to say, you know, maybe we drop Lynch in between Reagans and Lugo, or between Lugo and Singer. Then you can go left, right in your rotation, instead of having 2 guys that you don't necessarily trust to give you length back to back. So that's going to bear watching. I'll be really interested to see how the Royals end up playing that with Daniel Lynch. There are potentially other options for the Royals. Y'all remember Chris Bubich? He's on the comeback trail, and he was really good in a rehab start in Omaha on Saturday. Pitch limited because he's coming back from Tommy John surgery, so he only threw 63 pitches. 3 2/3 innings, 1 run, or no runs, 1 hit, 1 walk, 7 strikeouts. I'll tell you what, I was very fast to start sipping on the Chris Bubich Kool-Aid last year after his first 2 starts. There was enough evidence in terms of the quality of his stuff. There was a velocity bump, which unfortunately usually precedes Tommy John surgery. But there was enough there from Bubic that suggested to me that he'd made some real meaningful changes in his pitch arsenal and could potentially be a back of the rotation caliber starting pitcher. Because, like, that's what you're going to get. There's nobody right now beating down the door for the Royals with ace potential.
Yep.
They're not going to go call up the next Cole Reagans. They just need somebody good enough to hold the fort and give him some innings and give him a chance to win every 5 days. And if Lynch can't do that, Chris Bubic isn't far away, and I think he might be worth a look. And I'm excited if Chris Bubic can continue to pitch well in his rehab assignments and potentially come back and impact this rotation. So those are the options. And obviously the best case scenario is that this absence for Waka isn't an extremely long one, but we'll see. It's going to be Lynch who gets that first crack. And I just want to see a little more length. And what is he going to do to get a swing and miss? What is he going to do? Because I don't need him to strike out guys like Cole Reagans is striking out guys.
Yeah.
I think there's an effect where you can almost pitch too much to the strikeout. Then you start nibbling when you get to 2 strikes and you're walking guys. You're 3-2 on every hitter. I think there's been a little bit of that with Lynch. I just want to know, okay, what are you going to do to put guys away? What's going to be your put away pitch when you get to 2 strikes? Can you be efficient? Can you get deep into games?
That'll be a big question going forward. And I feel like if he's here, I don't know if you want to skip a start for him, right? We were talking about the beginning of the segment, like maybe not having to use it. Do you want to do that? Don't you want some guy that's going to be replacing him to be consistent?
I don't think I understand what you're asking here.
Like we were talking about, they could go without having his spot in the rotation,
right.
Rock a spot until Monday.
Right.
Do you want to do that? Or
I think you do. I think you can with the day off. I think that's a luxury that you're afforded if that's what you want to do. And you don't have to do it for everybody in the rotation. Like I said, it might suit them really well to say, okay, we're going to the downside is that it bumps up Marsh, who struggled a bit his last couple of times. It bumps him to Thursday.
Yeah.
But he's on full rest. And then you could go Reagan's full rest on Friday at home. And then if you wanted Lugo on full rest on Saturday, and that's an extra start for those 2 guys in particular. So that's how, let me put my Matt Quatrero hat on for a second. I have many fewer major league wins as a manager than he does, and much less dugout experience than Matt Quatrero does. But if I were laying this out, that's how I would play it. I would move Marsh forward, full rest for his start Thursday in Cleveland. Full rest for Reagan's Friday at home. Full rest for Lugo Saturday at home. Lynch on Sunday. And what this does, this gives you 2 things. Number one, you're now got Lynch in a spot where the guys before him have probably gotten you deep into the game, so it's less incumbent on him. Maybe you could have a fresher bullpen, ideally, if he only gets you 5 or 5 1/3. And the other thing is, you don't have to start him right away against the New York Yankees.
Yeah.
Even though, like, they got a little left-handed thump, right, with Rizzo and Soto. Like, you can match up with them a little bit, maybe with a lefty. But no, that's how I'd play it. But I'll be interested to see how Quatrero plays it. Some thoughts first from the Top City Metal Supply text line from 785. Has faith in Alec Marsh. Says Marsh is good enough to adjust. Going to take a little time. Lynch seems to be in the perfect spot to relieve injured starters. Lenny Dawson in the YouTube live chat says less pressure on Daniel Lynch this time around. I think that's true. I think that has helped Marsh. I think that has helped Singer to an extent, where those guys no longer feel like they've got to carry the rotation or live up to a prospect billing. I think that has helped those guys.
Yeah.
Baby steps and letting him start, not bouncing around from the starting rotation to the bullpen. Mark says maybe Lynch is just more of a bullpen guy, but I'm okay giving him a chance. Paul in the YouTube comments asks, does anyone know what happened to Jordan Lyles? Jordan Lyles is on the restricted list. He is away from the team entirely. And last we had heard he was dealing with a personal or family matter.
Yeah.
And that has not been specified. That has been kept private out of respect to the Lyles family. And so a return date for Jordan is
Still
unknown at this point. But certainly wish him well and his family well. And he would be a piece right now. Like, obviously, we saw what it was as a starter last year, and it was ugly. But he has been a guy who's had a little bit of success as a long reliever, and would probably have been in line to jump into the rotation in the event of an injury. Instead, it's going to be Daniel Lynch who gets that opportunity starting at some point, probably during the homestand. I don't think they're going to drop him in on Thursday against Cleveland. They might. Cleveland's got some lefty thump, too. You got to deal with Naylor. David Fry's been killing lefties. We got a lot more to say about Cleveland. We'll do that on tomorrow's show. We do a deep dive preview into the biggest series of the season so far for the boys in blue. But we're going to take a break here on 580 Sports Talk. When we come back, it's their first What Is Wrong With You for the month of June. That's next, 580 WIBW. Before we get to What Is Wrong With You, I want to tell you that all of us here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver, use your rideshare app, or plan ahead for a sober ride home. It is the first What Is Wrong With You for the month of June, and a segment in which many of our contestants do not choose to be a fan or a person with a plan.
Yeah, they don't have that plan.
Sometimes they plan and the plan is very bad.
Yeah.
Like my story today. I'll go ahead and start. We're going to the region, Muncie, Indiana. You know what's in Muncie?
I do not.
Ball State University is in Muncie.
Oh, yes.
Home of the Cardinals. They call it the region. We go to the region. An accused thief in Indiana told Muncie police officers he was sitting in his car when he spotted a delivery truck full of booze pull up outside the Cheers bar. Presumably not that one. A plan reportedly came to his mind. Steal the truck, sell the booze, pay off his drug debts. But the plan didn't go as intended, as you might have guessed by the fact that he was telling police officers about his plan. 39-year-old Bo Burchell of Gaston was found by police officers hiding in a brush line near Meadowview Farms, an area mobile home community. According to the Muncie PD, Burchell was successful in swiping the box truck full of booze while it sat outside the bar on Thursday morning. Hey, that's one down. But police spotted the truck in a field behind the Shriners Club located near Meadowview Farms. As police arrived on scene, officers spotted Burchell, described as a man with a ponytail, running into a wood line near the edge of the cornfield. Officers found him hiding under a bush. Officers said Burchell admitted to swiping the truck as part of a ploy to pay off his drug debt. He hoped to unload the liquor and beer from inside the box truck and sell it. Also found hidden behind the Shriners Club was a skid steer loader that was reported stolen earlier in the day. Burchell also allegedly admitted to stealing that and cutting off its GPS unit. Police said a search of the liquor truck revealed that Burchell had damaged the box truck by ripping out the camera system and tearing away the GPS device. The stolen skid steer allegedly has a value of more than $60K. The box truck was estimated to be worth $50,000. Police said the alcohol was still in the back of the truck and valued to be worth more than $12,000 in assorted beer and liquor. Burchell was booked on several preliminary felony theft charges. So, one, obviously, maybe don't get into that much drug debt.
Yeah.
That you think, hey, my only way out of this is stealing this liquor truck and selling all. What did he think he was good? Who do you think he was going to sell it
Yeah.
to?
Where was he going to?
Is there like a black market for booze in the region that I don't know about? Was he going to drive up to Indianapolis and just like sell it,
offload it,
sell it outside of Colts games? Like, what was his plan? Did he have a plan? Not a very good plan.
No.
He stole
Clearly
he stole a skid steer too. He probably how much drug debt did? Because if he stole a skid steer, I would have had to assume that he was probably going to try and sell that too.
Yeah. I don't know.
How much debt were you in, big dog?
A lot, apparently.
Man. All right, that's my story today. What do you got, Spencer?
We're going to our favorite place for these kind of stories, Texas. A wanted Florida man found with drugs after getting lost in the woods and calling deputies for help.
Why did you say Texas? What part of this?
Excuse me, Florida.
What part of the story?
Sorry.
You threw me off, man.
I was just on Twitter and somebody said Texas, so that was in my head.
Okay.
Sorry.
Texas,
The relief
Florida.
of a Florida man may have recently felt when he found out after getting lost in the woods that was shortly lived after the rescuers said not only he had drugs on him, but there was a warrant out for his arrest. Deputies with the Suwannee County Sheriff's Office say James Robert Lombardi, 43, called for help on Saturday morning because he was lost in a wooded area between Branford Greenway Trail and the Suwannee River. The Suwannee County Sheriff's Patrol Division Deputy Cleve Willis,
We aren't making a lot of Cleves anymore these days.
along with the Lafayette County Sheriff's Office and the Florida Fish and Wildlife Conservation Commission, went in the woods and began searching for Lombardi. The law enforcement officers found him within an hour and brought him back to the Ivy Park boat ramps. Though Lombardi was excited to be found, his joy did not last long because the law enforcement officers who located him told him that he had an active arrest warrant for violation of probation. While searching Lombardi before taking him into jail, authorities say they found a small amount of marijuana, a smoking pipe, and several burnt marijuana cigarettes in a case in the pocket of his shorts. Lombardi also had a cooler with him with various drinks and a metal box containing his phone. Inside the phone case was a glass smoking pipe and a glass vial containing methamphetamine, according to the SCSO.
If it's a Florida story, it is almost inevitably a meth story.
He was charged with violation of probation, possession of methamphetamine, possession of 20 grams of cannabis, and possession of drug paraphernalia. So he's in jail, obviously.
So, yeah, I essentially called the cops on himself.
Yes.
I don't know. Maybe he didn't know. Maybe he did about the arrest warrant for violating his probation, but I'm sure he knew that all those drugs were probably a violation of any probation he might have been on.
Maybe, he should have left them in the woods somewhere.
Yeah, like he absolutely,
like once he called and said, "I'm lost, can you help find me?" Maybe he should have discarded of that stuff.
Yeah, like I don't know.
Retraced his steps later on.
Put it under a tree, drop a pin on his phone, perhaps for later retrieval.
Yeah.
I don't know, man. Dummy. Wow. Great. 2 good stories
Yeah.
today.
Starting out the month solid.
I am leaning towards the gentleman who stole a liquor truck
Yeah.
and thought he could pay off his drug debt by selling hot booze.
Yeah, I'll agree with you there.
Not a huge fan of hot booze. I like cold
Yeah.
myself. But no, that was his grand plan. He was in so much debt for drugs. Me personally, I would not admit that to officers. I would have said I had a different kind of debt personally. I'm really deep in debt. Why?
Medical bills.
You guys ever heard of FanDuel? Yeah, caught a bad one. I was certain Purdue was going to win the national championship, and now I am very deep in debt. No, he had to tell him it was drugs. Why, dude? Why would you say that? Why would you say that out loud? Why would you tell the police you were involved in drugs? The other guy, why would you call the police? You had drugs on you.
Yeah.
Like, I realized he was probably lost, maybe scared, maybe high, contributing to some of the paranoia, perhaps. But don't admit wrongdoing to police, particularly if you're already in trouble for other wrongdoing. Don't admit further wrongdoing. Do not commit a crime while in the process of committing another crime.
Exactly.
We've got lots of hard and fast, what is wrong with you laws that are being violated here. That being said, I do believe that it is the gentleman who stole a liquor truck to try and pay off his drug debt that is going to be our first weekly winner.
Sounds like some GTA stuff.
It kind of does.
Like a
doesn't it?
story.
Like a side quest, perhaps?
Yeah, or something in story mode of GTA.
Steal this liquor truck and sell it to pay off your drug debt. No,
Yes.
that does. That absolutely sounds like a GTA side quest. That's our winner on What Is Wrong With You. We'll take a break. Come back, fill you in on the latest news and notes from the transfer portal for K-State men's basketball on 580 Sports Talk. Alpha Media is proud to partner with the Kansas Drive to Zero Coalition and encourages you to join Kansas fans with a plan. Always have a designated driver or other sober ride to and from your destination. 446 here on 580 Sports Talk. Dan Spencer Trenton with you. One more hour of the show after this. We got a full one today. We'll be short the next 3 days with the Royals out in Cleveland. We'll be off at 5 tomorrow. We'll be off at 5 on Wednesday. We'll start late with a 12 o'clock first pitch for the Royals and the Guardians on getaway day on Thursday. So shorter
roughly
shows,
around 3 o'clock-ish.
give or take.
Yeah.
Speaking of the Royals, one question from the YouTube comments from a user whose name I think if I tried to pronounce, I might get fined.
Yeah, I would.
So I'm going to leave it alone. But the question is the door closed for Zach Greinke to come back short term to the Royals? Zach Greinke has not closed the door on the resumption of his playing career. I had not seen this. I Googled to see if there was any news, Zach Greinke news. Apparently there was. Apparently he talked to Nick Picoro, the Arizona Republic, just 2 weeks ago. And he has been working out. And he told Nick Picoro, I don't know if this will be my last time throwing. He threw a live batting practice session at the Arizona Diamondbacks complex. Or if I'll throw the rest of this year and the next year. I don't really know at the moment. There's also this quote, which is a classic Zach Greinke quote. I was trying to get as good as I could at golfing the past 2 months. And I was like, why am I trying to be a pro golfer when I'm already kind of a pro baseball player?
Kind of.
So I figured I'd throw a little and see how it goes. One of one. They only made one, Zach Greinke. One of my absolute favorites. And if he's done, then we'll see him in Cooperstown. If he's not, we'll see him on the mound somewhere. I don't know how much interest the Royals would have. I think you'd want to be in a ballpark where the ballpark will hold some of the long fly balls he gives up these days. Kauffman Stadium would be one of those. But be a fun story.
Yeah.
If it does happen. But nothing imminent to suggest that it will or will not one way or another. I wanted to talk about the transfer portal here in this segment because we've got some chatter surrounding Kansas State. We got multiple sources, including friend of the program, Tim Fitzgerald at GoPowerCat.com, saying that the Wildcats are in with a chance on Coleman Hawkins, a stretch big who helped Illinois reach the Elite Eight this past season, scored 12.1 points per game, hauled in 6 rebounds, shot a career-best 37% from behind the arc and 79% from the free throw line. Now, in reading the tea leaves, because, again, multiple sources have suggested that Hawkins not only would be a fit with K-State, but also has some mutual interest. It would seem as though Arkansas, though, is the leader in the clubhouse here. But based on what I have read, and you can interpret this however you like, this would not be a player, Coleman Hawkins, that K-State was getting real consideration from if they weren't willing to go big in the NIL department. If they weren't willing to throw a little cash Coleman Hawkins' way. Because Coleman Hawkins is a player, like many of the players who have withdrawn from the NBA draft, took it to the wire, withdrew, and are going back to school and are in the portal right now, that have maybe been told as veteran players, hey, maybe the NBA is not for you. Maybe you need one more year to get to the point where your game is NBA ready, but you're already a senior, you're already 22, 23. It may just not happen for you. So your best chance to make a lot of money playing basketball in the United States might be via NIL and one more year of college basketball. That is the word as it pertains to Coleman Hawkins. And that is why Arkansas, I think, is considered the favorite because
they got the money.
They've got that Tyson Chicken money.
Yeah.
That's what they've got. They've got that Tyson Chicken money, and they've got some spots on that roster because, again, everybody left when John Calipari showed up. They had no roster. So, but K-State's in with a chance with Hawkins, and I think it would be an interesting addition. And I'll sum up my thoughts as we go along because there's some other players that have been tied to K-State, including Florida State transfer Jameer Watkins. This, according to John Rothstein. May is over with. Remember John Rothstein always tweets, we sleep in May. Well, he's done sleeping.
He wasn't really sleeping. He was...
He has come out of hibernation.
Yeah, he was doing it anyway in March.
He's
or May.
Shaking off the cobwebs, and he's tweeting again. And John Rothstein says that there are half a dozen programs that Jameer Watson is considering and included Kansas State on the list. It also includes Cincinnati, Oregon, Michigan, St. John's, and a return to Florida State. According to On3, Watkins is the best player left in the portal. He's number one on their current players remaining on the portal list. He's a 6'7" wing, averaged 15.5 points, 6 rebounds per game, shot 34.5% from three last season. There's also the matter of Arthur Kaluma, who you saw, Spencer, earlier today, that there's some rumblings out of Memphis that he might be the second cat in as many years to go from Manhattan to Memphis.
Yes, this comes from Parth Upadhyaya.
Yeah,
That's where we'll go with. We'll go with that. He's the Memphis Tigers basketball beat writer for the Daily Memphian. Excuse me. He said this morning, or I guess earlier today, 12:02 is when it was tweeted. I'm told that Memphis has, quote, a big lead in the recruitment of Kansas State transfer Arthur Kaluma. It's the combination of how seamless the fit looks on paper, the success former Tiger / Wildcat Naquan Tomlin had with the program, and a strong NIL offer that separated the Tigers. We know they also have a ton of money from their new NIL deal with FedEx.
Yes.
The Memphis company. So
yes, there's a big investment there. That is a school that really wants to be good at sports, really wants to be good at basketball. Basketball matters a lot at Memphis. And they are not a school that's really in the mix for a lot of the other big time transfer portal targets remaining. So it would make sense that they might have all their NIL eggs in Arthur Kaluma's basket. That being said, something like that gets out for a reason. Something like that escapes contain and gets made public by a beat writer for a reason. And it could be very much a leverage play from Kaluma's representation in NIL. Because a lot of what has come from Kaluma has been a real love and appreciation for Coach Tang and K-State. And like that relationship, I don't think has been damaged. Tim Fitzgerald has said as much, that there was still a door open for Kaluma to come back to Kansas State, even though he went portaling when he declared initially for the NBA draft. So I don't think that door is closed, and I don't think it's a lock necessarily that Kaluma ends up at Memphis. What I do think is happening here is that Kansas State has 2 spots left, and they want to fill one with a wing, and they want to fill one with a big. And they've got 2 wings that everybody knows that they've got interest in, Arthur Kaluma and now Jameer Watkins. And they got 2 bigs that everybody knows K-State has interest in, both Coleman Hawkins and the big man from Kentucky, Ugonna Onyenso, who reportedly is visiting Manhattan today.
And it seems like what you mentioned about that word getting out is a thing because Roman Clary, who writes for Buff City Media, Memphis's premier sports media site covering all things sports in the city, he has a story on it today as well. So it's funny the timing of those 2 things that they wanted out there.
Yeah. So I do. I think that this very well could be a leverage play. Like if it's out there that, one school has a big lead, the interpretation that I would make of that is there might be another school that you're trying to drive the offer up from. And that may not be Kansas State, but it may just be, hey, make us an even better offer. Otherwise, we're going to Memphis. So K-State needs a wing. And we talked about this on Friday's show.
Yeah.
Like K-State needs a wing. They need a wing scorer. They need to bring in one of Watkins or Kaluma. And honestly, if they didn't get another big and they just got 2 wings, I think they could piece it together with the bigs that they've got. But I think their big man group gets a lot better if they add Hawkins or Onyenso. Onyenso is not a player they have who's just a rim protecting presence. Hawkins is more of a stretch big, kind of like a chore, kind of a pick and pop, pick and roll type of big. That would be a little bit more in line with a player they already have. So it's fascinating, but it also shows you K-State's still very active, looking to add to their roster. They got 2 spots left, and they want to fill them both with dudes. That's going to do it for this 4 o'clock hour, 580 Sports Talk. Coming up at the 5 o'clock hour, some 580 Sports Talk headlines, including the playoff roundup. We'll talk about the Royals bullpen as well. Next steps to try and improve that struggling unit. Coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk. Let's get it. Final hour of the day on 580 Sports Talk, coming to you live from the Kansas Drive to Zero studio. I'm Dan Lucero, Spencer Dupuis, and Trenton Craxner here as well. This is the final hour of 4 on this Monday edition of the show. And whether you're listening on 580 WIBW, FM 104.9, online at 580WIBW.com, or you're viewing the show on our video stream live on YouTube, 580 Sports Talk, Facebook, WIBW News, and Twitter, 580 Sports Talk. Thank you for tuning in. We appreciate you spending your Monday afternoon with us here on the program. If you've not subscribed to the YouTube, what better time than now while Brendan Wierzinski is on vacation to annoy him specifically? Go subscribe to the YouTube page, 580 Sports Talk. Search 580 Sports Talk on YouTube. Click subscribe if you have not already. Well, many of you have. 536, I believe, is the last total we had. 537, we went up.
Yeah, we went up in the show today.
Love that. We can go higher.
I'll be pushing it tomorrow.
Let's do it.
Let's whatever you're not here.
Yeah, understood. I may be here tomorrow. I may not. It's up.
We don't know. We won't know until tomorrow happens.
It's a fluid situation, in many ways, but that's kind of graphic. The YouTube page is 580 Sports Talk, and if you have not yet, you hit subscribe over there. One, it makes the number go up, which we love to see the number go up. But two, what it will do is every time you open the YouTube app or go to youtube.com on your computer, you'll see our videos, and you can even set notifications for our videos. So you can know when we're going live. You know, maybe after a Royals game, you don't know when we're going to start. Well, you'll get notified when we go live after Royals Day games. And you'll get notified if we do any live special video content like our post-draft videos or our YouTube instant reaction videos during the football and basketball season.
Or sometimes if the Royals if the schedule decided that we're not going to have a show at all, but there's a lot of stories that popped off during the day.
Yeah.
We might just have an impromptu live stream.
That's very true. That's, I think it's 3 Thursdays from today. The Royals are in Oakland, and it's a 2:37 Central Time first pitch. So we might not have any kind of show that day unless we decide that we want to do one. And in all likelihood, that's y'all making that decision. I might still be on paternity leave at that time. Who can say? But we do appreciate everybody who has subscribed. Tell your friends, tell your neighbors, tell your enemies. Tell them to subscribe too. And maybe you can become friends based on a shared appreciation for 580 Sports Talk. Maybe it will break down walls that have existed for generations, family feuds, detonated in instance because you both love What Is Wrong With You and all of our other segments that we do here on 580 Sports Talk. I'm rambling, man. It's 5 o'clock on a Monday. My brain's scrambled eggs. We've got lots more to get to on the show today. We're going to talk about the Royals bullpen. Not good. Not very good right now for a lot of reasons. We'll talk about the biggest reason why it's not very good and perhaps the starkest difference between the Royals and the team they are chasing in the American League Central standings has been the performance of the bullpen. And I'll show you a stat that really illustrates why. But we are going to start this 5 o'clock hour. We start every 5 o'clock hour on the program with our 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to keep it local for our first headline and tell you that Hayden High School has a new boys basketball coach. A couple of weeks ago, Trey Brown stepped down after just 1 year on the Hayden bench to take an assistant's position at his alma mater, Mid-American Nazarene University. So Hayden has hired a new basketball coach, and it is of a trend, not just this year, but last year as well. The Rick Bloomquist coaching tree at Topeka West has been particularly fruitful, as another former Topeka West assistant has a head coaching job. Dwayne Anthony, who was an assistant under Rick Bloomquist last 8 seasons at West, will lead the Hayden program. He will be Hayden's 4th boys basketball coach in the last 6 years, I believe it is, following again Trey Brown 1 season and then his resignation to go be a college assistant at his alma mater. Dwayne Anthony is the new head coach at Hayden. He joins he joins Brandon McConnell, who became the head coach at Rossville, and Marco Hunter, who is the new head coach of boys basketball at Holton as former Bloomquist assistants to be hired to head coaching jobs in the last 2 seasons. So congratulations to Dwayne Anthony. I believe that's it for now. Things can change. But as far as high school basketball coaching vacancies in the city, I believe they have now all been filled. So that's our first headline for today. Spencer?
My first headline, we're staying local and staying with basketball, this time moving up to the college ranks. Washburn-Ichabod's men's basketball coach Brett Bollard has announced Ty Danielson will be joining the coaching staff. It says starting June 1st. This was just posted today. So starting on the other day on June 1st, a former Nebraska Kearney player has spent the last 2 seasons as associate head coach at Fort Lewis in Colorado. So they are bringing on another assistant coach and a 2018 graduate of Nebraska Kearney.
Kearney.
It
is Kearney, Nebraska. Next headline for me here on 580 Sports Talk. The Women's College World Series is down to the semifinals. Former Topeka High standout Nyjah Kennedy, the National Player of the Year per USA Softball. Well, she is still alive. She's spun 2 dandies since the loss to Texas in the tournament opener last night. Kennedy brilliant over 7 innings as Stanford beat conference rival UCLA 3-1 to move into the semifinal round of the Women's College World Series. They will play tonight against Texas, and they have to win twice to advance to the championship round. Texas is unbeaten, and so Stanford has to beat them twice.
Yes, because they did fall to them Thursday night.
Right. So when they play tonight, they will have to win that game, and then they'll play another one right after, and they'll have to win that one. Going to be a long night of softball, it sounds like, because Florida and Oklahoma are going to a second game today. Oklahoma had been undefeated. In fact, they'd won 20 consecutive games at the Women's College World Series before Florida beat them earlier this afternoon. So I believe game 2 between those two to determine one of the finalists in the Women's College World Series is just getting underway.
They have one field there?
Yeah, they play
so that means
Devon Park or whatever it's called.
The 6 p.m. start's not happening at 6
it doesn't sound like they're going to play at 6 tonight. No.
Barring some miraculous no-hitter, and then one no-hitter falls with in the bottom of the 7th or whatever.
So, yeah, be in tune to ESPN if you're interested in following Nyjah and the Stanford Cardinal tonight in the Women's College World Series. They have to beat Texas twice to survive.
I wanted to talk about her for one more second.
Sure.
Did you watch Friday's game?
Friday, that was the one against Texas, right?
No, that was Thursday's game.
Okay, yeah. Friday was Oklahoma State.
Yes.
Yeah, I watched. I think I caught the last little bit of that game.
Did you see what happened to Nyjah?
No.
So
she threw a ball off her knee in the last inning?
Threw a ball off her knee in the last inning.
Yeah.
She gutted out the rest of the game.
It was one pitch.
Well, yes.
It was the second to last pitch. She bounced it. I'm remembering now.
She gutted out being able to finish the game.
Yeah.
And I don't even think she celebrated with her team. She went right to like the trainer, and she wasn't at the media availability. And so it's the NCAA running that media thing. And they always announce who's going to be there. And the sticker or the nameplate had her there, and the guy pointed out she's receiving medical attention. And Coach Aller, I can't remember their head coach's name off the top of my head, but she was like, I want to let you know that she is okay. She's just meeting with our trainer. So
Jessica Allister.
Yes. I just thought that was an interesting thing, is like the NCAA person was like, yeah, she's getting medical attention. And coach had to calm everybody down, and they got the day off on Saturday, which helped her to be okay to pitch yesterday and throw another dominant game.
She ended up being just fine. She'll have 1 run, I think, in the 2 games since Texas touched her up a little bit in the first game.
She seems to, whenever she gets touched up, just come back and completely dominate.
Yeah.
She's done that for the last 3 or 4 weeks of the season.
She has, yeah. When LSU beat her up pretty good in the Super Regional, she came back and fed them crumbs. The final 2 games. Yeah, she is something else. All right, what's your next headline, Spencer?
I was also going to say, did you see that sign that was on ESPN?
Yes, at the very end of the game. Yeah, that was pretty cool.
Yeah, that was a cool sign. I just wanted to point that out.
Yeah.
From Topeka to Oklahoma City or whatever it says. Next one here is we're going to move to the NFL for this. Another owner wants the public to pay for expansion to their stadium. Tepper Sports and Entertainment, Dave Tepper, the owner of the Carolina Panthers, unveiled an $800 million proposal for upgrades to Bank of America Stadium in Charlotte, which includes new seats, expanded team store, reimagined exterior pavilion, new video board, sound system, and 650 of the 800 million in public funding. A city vote is set for June 24th. That is, I don't know, I'm not a math guy, but only 150 million out of the owner's pocket.
Well, what will help David Tepper in this case, I'm sure, is how beloved he is in the Charlotte area. Everybody just loves David Tepper, and he's such a lovable guy in return too. Just an easily
the interactions that he has with fans are so graceful.
Yes, he really knows how to talk to the common man and build bridges between the organization and the fan base that are going to really help him bring this vote home. I'm sure if there's a public vote for this. No, David Tepper's a knob, and the people of Charlotte better not build this guy. If he wants adjustments to the stadium, he can build them his damn self. He is one of the richest owners in football. He's got the money.
But like, that's a lot of money to put to your taxpayers.
Yeah.
Like, you're not even trying with half. Like, go with half.
You'd think.
Yeah.
Next headline for me, the Hall of Fame, the College Football 2025 Hall of Fame ballot was released today. Not much of a presence for the Kansas schools. The lone representative from the state of Kansas on the ballot, the great Terrence Newman, star defensive back at K-State from 1999 to 2002, one of 77 players on this year's ballot. Let's remember some guys that are on this year's ballot. Remember Rocky Kalmus? That was a guy, linebacker at Oregon. He's on the ballot. Flozell the Hotel Adams from Michigan State, former Dallas Cowboy. He's on the ballot. Kajana Carter from Penn State is on this year's ballot. How about Dallas Clark? Great Iowa Hawkeye tight end for
Steve
many
Slayton.
years. Aaron Donald, who, of course, had an unbelievable pro career, is on the ballot. NFL Hall of Famer Alan Faneca, who was a standout guard at LSU. Garrison Hurst is on this ballot. Georgia running back, suffered a terrible injury in his pro days. Deshaun Jackson, great player at Cal. Mark Ingram won a Heisman Trophy at Alabama. Peter Warrick, unbelievable player at Florida State. Michael Vick isn't in already. What are we doing here? Michael Vick needs no introduction. Sean Taylor, one of the great football players I've ever seen. Miami star, a great Washington football player until his untimely death. Manti Te'o is on the ballot for the first time, Notre Dame linebacker. More notable for things that went on off the field with him later on. Antoine Randall, quarterback in Indiana before going on to a career as a wide receiver. Michael Oher, Ole Miss offensive lineman, made famous for the book The Blind Side, that was maybe not all that truthful about Michael Oher's circumstances. One of my favorite football player of all time, I'll just say it, Marshawn Lynch, running back Cal, also on the ballot. There are 77 names,
including one of the best kickers of all time, Sebastian Janikowski.
Oh, I left Seabass off. Seahawk great, Sebastian Janikowski. Also, 9 coaches up for the College Football Hall of Fame this year, including for the first time both Urban Meyer and Nick Saban. Wonder if Nick Saban will get in.
He's got to, right?
Can you imagine handing in a ballot? You get to vote. If you are a voter, if you're a member of the National Football Foundation and you're a voter, you get to vote for 12 of the 77 players and 2 of the 9 coaching candidates. Can you imagine handing in a ballot and Nick Saban's not one of the coaches? The other coaches, Larry Blakeney, longtime Troy coach, Jim Carlin, Pete Cawthon Sr., coached at Texas Tech in the 40s or the 30s. Larry Coker, Ralph Friedgen, Darrell Rogers, and Tommy Tuberville. If he doesn't get in, he'll blame the deep state. Anyway, can you imagine those 9 coaches and you vote for 2 and you don't vote for Nick Saban?
Somebody's going to vote for Larry Coker there.
Larry Coker won a national championship.
Yeah, but that time at Miami was...
Yeah, but he won a national championship.
Yeah, but that time at Miami was not necessarily the best of times for Miami.
Yeah, but he won a national championship. I'm just saying. I'm just throwing it out there.
Isn't those the years
Ralph
of the
Friedgen
U and
never
the
won
U?
a national championship.
Isn't that the years of the U and the U Part 2?
Yeah, that would have been the U Part 2. Yes, yeah, that would.
Or the U Part 2.
Yes, the early 2000s. Anyway, Terrence Newman, great K-Stater, should be in the College Football Hall of Fame. All of these guys, to varying degrees, belong in the Hall of Fame. And I put 12 in at a time. Like it took Tommy Frazier, I think, half a decade to get in the College Football Hall of Fame, which is preposterous.
Yeah.
So, but he is the only Kansas or Kansas State player on this year's College Football Hall of Fame ballot. Next headline.
We talked about this earlier with Matt Verderame, but Giants tight end Darren Waller, who's had a very interesting, I guess, last like 8 weeks of an offseason between the public divorce between him and his former wife, now or soon to be ex-wife, WNBA star Kelsey Plum. The diss track, is that what we're calling it?
I don't think it was a diss track.
The divorce track?
Yeah, it was a song about his divorce. It's
the divorce track.
It's the worst thing I've ever heard.
That he dropped last week. He's also going to help if he decides to retire. He's going to help the Giants by saving them $11.9 million on the cap.
I don't think he wants to go into a locker room ever again after he put out that music video. You imagine he'd be getting fried in a locker room for putting that out.
Yeah.
Absolutely fried. Anyway, next headline for me. This is a breaking news story from the Wall Street Journal. Jared Diamond and Lindsay Adler reporting that Major League Baseball is investigating San Diego Padres infielder Tucupita Marcano for violating the sport's gambling policy, and he faces the possibility of a lifetime ban. The 24-year-old Marcano has been accused of betting on games involving the Pittsburgh Pirates last season while he was on the injured list for that team. That is a no-no. That is a well-known no-no in baseball. Marcano's ultimate punishment hasn't been finalized, pending ongoing negotiations between Major League Baseball and the MLB Players Association. In addition to Marcano, there are 4 other unnamed players who face potential discipline for betting on baseball while in the minor leagues. So Marcano last played in the major leagues on July 24th of last year. He left the game with a torn ACL that he suffered while running the bases and allegedly bet on his own team while he was on the injured list. He was claimed off waivers by the Padres in November of last year. Marcano has played 149 Major League Baseball games, has a .217 lifetime batting average with 5 home runs. And that might be where it stands, because if you bet on baseball while you are on a team, there's no coming back from that. There is no coming back. Ask Pete Rose. There is no coming back from that. That is going to be a lifetime ban. And again, the proliferation of stories about professional athletes in gambling is not, to me, evidence that the professional leagues have overstepped in partnering with the major gambling houses, the gambling websites, your FanDuel, your DraftKings, all of that. Full disclosure, I was once paid by FanDuel to endorse their product. I don't think that Major League Baseball, I think that's a different conversation. Let me put it that way. I think whether or not that it is right for baseball or the NBA or the NHL or whatever professional league to have endorsement deals with the likes of FanDuel or DraftKings, whether or not that is appropriate, I think is a separate discussion is a discussion that is separate from the discussion about players getting caught gambling, because that is happening because gambling is more widespread and more highly regulated, so that we know if Tucupita Marcano's got a DraftKings account and he was putting $500 on the Pirates to win against the Reds on a Saturday in August while he was a member of the 40-man roster of the Pittsburgh Pirates. Like, this is the kind of stuff that used to operate in the shadows. Now it is out into the light. And the fact that it is happening and we're talking this much about it, it's not great. It's really not great. But I also don't really believe that it is an offshoot of the closer relationship between the leagues and gambling itself. What I think it is legalized, regulated gambling working as intended to expose this stuff and hopefully be a deterrent so that the next Tucupita Marcano thinks, hey, maybe I shouldn't get down on this parlay involving my team that I play for. Maybe I should avoid that because I don't want to be banned for life. I don't want to be Jonte Porter. I don't want to be Tucupita Marcano. I value my career more than I value this parlay. Like that's the decision. That's the calculus that you hope more players make the more you see guys get suspended for stuff like that.
We'll see if it's like, if this is them using their, I don't know, just say FanDuel account, DraftKings, whatever account, gambling in these states that they're using them in is clearly regulated by the state government,
right?
Which like you have to sign yourself up for, and you have to have basically all the stuff is going into a list. Well, that list can be cross-checked with your name as an MLB player. Like,
right.
Like, this is almost a what is wrong with you type story.
You are going to get caught.
Yeah, like it's going to happen. There's regulations. Your name's in a database. This database is going to cross-check if you're a Major League Baseball or a minor league baseball in a major league organization, I should say, and you're going to get canned. You're going to get get your toast.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd throw your career away to make some bets. I really don't. It never made sense to me. The Pete Rose saga has never made sense to me outside of he was an addict. And I respect, let me choose my words carefully here. I understand that addiction is a very real problem, and I have very real sympathy for people who deal with those addictions. But at the same time, even if you are so addicted to sports gambling that you are doing it while you are an active athlete, that you just can't resist the high of getting your parlay down or betting extravagant amounts of money, it still doesn't make sense to me that you'd think you'd get away with doing it when it's your own team, particularly in baseball where everyone knows Pete Rose. Tucupita Marcano is 24 years old. I guarantee you he knows who Pete Rose is and why Pete Rose isn't in the Hall of Fame. If you know anything about baseball, you know Pete Rose. You know that cautionary tale and why you would choose to ignore that, even if you were deep in the throes of a very serious gambling addiction. That just it boggles my mind. We've got a playoff roundup to get to, so why don't we do that?
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk.
It's time for the 580 Sports Talk playoff roundup.
You know, it's a Monday for everybody.
I was just going to do it live.
We're going to have 3 days off to sharpen the transition into the playoff roundup because there's not going to be a playoff roundup until Thursday because the finals are now set in both the NBA and the NHL. The NBA finals do not start until Thursday. The Stanley Cup final does not start until Saturday. And it will feature the Stanley Cup final, the northernmost team in the NHL and the southernmost team in the NHL as the Edmonton Oilers and Florida Panthers each won their respective conference championships over the weekend, both winning in 6 games, both clinching on their home ice. For Florida, it is a return to the Stanley Cup final for a second consecutive year and the third time in franchise history. They are seeking their first championship. For Edmonton, it is the first time since, I want to say, 2008. I think it was 2008 was the last time they went to a Stanley Cup final. They are looking for their first cup since I'm not looking at it, you can tell, 89, I think was the last time they won one. The year after they traded Gretzky, they still won one, I think. Am I right?
89, 90.
90. Okay, yeah. But that was still after the Gretzky deal.
Yeah, it appears the last time they were in the
Stanley Cup final
was 05-06.
Yeah, you're right. It was 06, not 08. That's my bad. Yep, they lost to Carolina that year. Dwayne Rollison got red hot in goal for like a month and a half. It was wild. Anyway, we've got the Oilers and the Panthers. The two cities, Edmonton, Alberta, Canada, and Sunrise, Florida, are 2,541 miles apart as the crow flies. That is the furthest distance between two cities in the history of the Stanley Cup final. Game 1 is Saturday. The Panthers have home ice advantage. Spencer, who you got?
The Oilers.
See, I think it's going to be Florida because I think they have the deeper team.
Yeah.
But Edmonton has the best player. And
I just want to see the best player win a Stanley Cup.
in the course of history, particularly in sports, like this doesn't really apply to baseball because you don't get to choose how often or at what time the best player makes an impact on a game, right? Like you don't get to send your best player to bat in the ninth inning if it's not their turn at bat. It's just not how it works. So there are a lot of players in baseball history who finish their careers without World Series rings. It's just how it goes. But in basketball and in hockey, when you can more directly have the outsized impact on a game, on a season, on a playoff run, if you are the best player and you play the most minutes, more often than not, those guys who are considered the generational players have at least one championship. You look at the NHL in the post-lockout era, the generational guys all got their rings. Nicholas Lidstrom got plenty of rings with the Red Wings. Sidney Crosby got 3 with the Penguins. Jonathan Toews, Patrick Kane, Blackhawks won 3. Alex Ovechkin got his in 2018.
Only one.
Nathan McKinnon's got his in 2022 with the Avalanche. Connor McDavid's better maybe than all of those guys. Like I know you would debate Ovechkin over McDavid, but just in terms of pure talent, there have been few better in the history of the whole NHL, not just this era, than Connor McDavid. And the one thing missing from his resume, because he's won 3 MVPs, the one thing missing from his resume is a Stanley Cup.
Yeah.
And I'd love to see him get it. I would. It would make sense, narratively speaking, in the history of the National Hockey League, if McDavid and the Oilers raised the cup. They would, of course, be the first Canadian team to win a title since the 1993 Montreal Canadiens.
Which is crazy.
I didn't have to look that one up. That one I know by heart.
That is just crazy to me.
Yeah. Isn't it wild?
Yeah.
That is
the most prevalent of the sport between the two countries.
Yeah.
When it comes to like actually the historicalness of the sport.
Yeah.
Hasn't won a Stanley Cup in that long.
It's also the 5th straight year a team from Florida has played for the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. What are they doing in Florida?
Signing good hockey players, I guess.
And it's ironic how hot it gets when they're playing in the Stanley Cup.
Yeah. It makes the ice crappy.
Yeah.
I've always said that. Like for years, playing in Dallas this time of year, it turned the ice into a Slurpee. Gross. Cost the Avalanche at least one Stanley Cup. I'm not bitter. Oilers and Panthers, Saturday, game 1 of the Stanley Cup final. That's the playoff roundup. Those are your 580 Sports Talk headlines. We're going to take a break. When we come back, talk about the Royals bullpen, the main reason why they've struggled the way that they have, and who is in the bullpen trust tree. We'll talk about it next on 580 Sports Talk. All of us here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver. Use your rideshare app or plan ahead for a sober ride home. It is 5:37 here on 580 Sports Talk. Couple of leftover thoughts from the headline segment from the YouTube comments. Vance says doesn't think Connor Bedard will win a Stanley Cup with the Blackhawks, and he may not. He certainly came into the NHL with a great deal of hype, Vance, but we don't know yet that he's going to be that guy. He may be. He's very talented, but we didn't know Connor McDavid was going to be Connor McDavid until a few years in. It was very obvious that he was that guy.
Yeah.
So typically, if you get to that stage of that guyhood, for lack of a better way to put it, you win a Stanley Cup. Like,
exactly.
The list of the guys who are the best to not win a Stanley Cup is not as imposing as the list of like best baseball players not to win a World Series, for example. Though they are, like I said, kind of different things. Jason asked the eternal question: should Pete Rose be in the Hall of Fame? Spencer, what do you think? Should Pete Rose be in the Baseball Hall of Fame?
I don't know.
I have changed my stance on this.
I have
years.
too. That's why I said I don't know.
There's a part of me that thinks, because I believe that Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens and all those guys should be in the Hall of Fame. And if we're going to put in people that others have been resistant to putting in the Hall of Fame for so many years, then we may as well put Pete Rose in too. I think that a full accounting of the baseball-related sins of all of those great players is not only necessary to put on their plaque. Put that Barry Bonds hit the most home runs. I don't necessarily think even an asterisk, just right on their plaque. Hit the most home runs of anybody else. Also did steroids.
I mean, that's the asterisk is like,
yeah,
that's what I mean. Like, not
like
an asterisk, but like,
be honest about it. Because look, we got to be honest about all of these guys that are in the Hall of Fame. We should be honest about Cap Anson, brilliant player. Also, probably the biggest racist to ever play baseball. If there is any one man who is responsible for there being a color barrier in the first place in professional baseball, it's Cap Anson. But he's in the Hall of Fame. Put that on his plaque. Put the gambling on Pete Rose's plaque. And also put that he got more hits than anybody in the history of Major League Baseball. Like, part of me has started to come around on that a little bit. The other part of me is, unlike Barry Bonds and Roger Clemens, Pete Rose knew that there was a rule about betting on his own team because it was posted in the locker room every day of his career, and he broke the rule anyway. And there was not a similar placard about performance-enhancing drugs. In fact, they were sort of low-key encouraged by the commissioner of baseball, Bud Selig, who, by the way, he's in the Hall of Fame. If Bud Selig's in the Hall of Fame and Barry Bonds isn't, who would you rather remember as a baseball fan, Bud Selig or Barry Bonds?
Barry Bonds.
So, yeah, like the standards are so inconsistent anymore. I would be fine with it if they put him in. I would, though, kind of think it would be okay if they waited till he was dead. I kind of think he shouldn't get to enjoy it, Pete Rose. If they put him in, I would prefer he not get to enjoy it. But that's my that's my take on the subject. Somebody from the 785 asked, what did Pete Rose do that enhanced his ability to perform on the field? Well, greenies. He did a lot of greenies. So did Hank Aaron. So did Willie Mays. Greenies. So many greenies. Handfuls of greenies. But the thing that's keeping him out of the Hall of Fame isn't that. The thing that's keeping him out of the Hall of Fame is he bet on baseball. And he was banned from the game for life. Like, it's a very different standard.
Yeah.
Like, say what you want about A-Rod, Barry Bonds. They have never been explicitly banned for life from baseball by a commissioner, as Rose was for. And I do think it is worse to bet on games than it is to take a performance enhancing anything. But that's my opinion. You may differ. Speaking of performances that are not being enhanced, the Royals bullpen. It's not been very good lately. We talked about that at the very top of the show. The Royals are going to run into a Cleveland team these next 3 days that has the best bullpen ERA in baseball. The Royals tied for 24th in bullpen ERA. Here is the starkest difference between the two teams. It can be found in the K per 9 category. Strikeouts per 9 rates of active Royals relievers are as follows. 15.0. That sounds great. That's also Will Klein in 3 innings. So let's throw him out. Let's also throw out Sam Long at 7.7 strikeouts per 9 in 4.2 innings. The rest of the strikeout per 9 rates of active Royals relievers, 8.4, 8.3, 8.1. That's MacArthur, Zerpa, and Stratton. 6.1, 5.9, 5.5. Those are the strikeouts per 9. That is not a lot of swing and miss. Those last 3 guys are, I believe, in order. That's Schreiber, Smith, and Anderson. I didn't write them down. For comparison's sake, here's how good Cleveland is at striking guys out. Here are their 8 active relievers. 13.5 strikeouts per 9. That's a gentleman named Cade Smith. 12.2 strikeouts per 9. That's a gentleman named Scott Barlow. Yes, that Scott Barlow. 12.2 Ks per 9. 10 even strikeouts per 9. 9.7 strikeouts per 9. 8.9. That's Emmanuel Clase. Nobody hits him hard anyway. Doesn't matter how many guys he strikes out because you can't square him up because he throws 102-mile-an-hour cutters. The rest of the Cleveland bullpen, 8.3, 8.3, 8.1. That's a very stark difference.
Yeah.
Missing bats is so important, especially in high leverage, especially if you're coming in with runners on. So I want to pose this question, and I want to pose this question to the Royals fans who are tuned in. The Top City Mail Supply text line, 785-272-9429. Also in the YouTube comments, YouTube live chat. I'm going to pose it to Trenton as well across the glass, who, as much as any of us here, watches Royals games, not just with his eyes, but with his heart. Trenton, who's in the Royals bullpen trust tree? Who do you feel good about getting 3 outs without allowing a run when they jog out of the bullpen? How long is that list? Who do you trust? Who do you feel good about?
Well, I think Angel Zerpa was in that list until yesterday. He finally had a bad outing.
Mm-hmm.
Honestly, Sam Long. I'm a big believer in Sam Long. I think he should get a little bit more run, but maybe MacArthur, but he's been a roller coaster.
He has.
At home, right? Better at home?
No, that's Stratton.
Oh, that's Stratton.
Chris-
My bad.
Chris Stratton at home is like
Markedly.
Yeah, he's like 8 points on his ERA better. I don't know. I think Long and Zerpa, maybe MacArthur, Stratton if he's in a white jersey. It's not very confidence-inducing right now. That's definitely for sure. Maybe Will Klein if they give him some more run.
We have a text from the 913 that's just 3 blank spaces. Like that's the trust tree does not exist for that listener from the 913. Good text from the Top City Mail Supply text line. For me, I still like MacArthur's stuff. And I like Zerpa's stuff. I think they've got the best of the guys we've seen a lot of. And I'll deal with Will Klein in a second. But the guys we've seen a lot of, MacArthur and Zerpa have the best stuff. And then probably Nick Anderson after that, which is wild that he doesn't make anybody swing and miss anymore. But I think MacArthur and Zerpa are young enough, early enough in their big league careers. It seems to me that they're still figuring out how to put guys away. Like Zerpa was 2 strikes on, I think, all the guys he gave up hits to. Certainly was 2 strikes on Machado, and he hung a slider. So I think that he throws a 97-mile-an-hour sinker, and he's got a good slider. And I think he's more comfortable against lefties than he is against righties, which that's natural for a left-handed reliever. But I think him and MacArthur are still kind of trying to figure out, okay, how do I get to strike 3? And that's like the next step. I think those guys are going to be fine long-term. I'm not looking to replace them. Will Klein might be 3rd for me. 5 strikeouts in 3 innings. I know he gave up some hits on Friday. That was just a ridiculous inning of baseball, that 8th inning. But throws hard, 97, 98. Love the way he went after Tyler Wade to get a punch out in the 9th inning yesterday for his first big league win. I'm intrigued by the power of the arm. And I want to see more of that. This bullpen needs bat missers, and they got a whole bunch of guys right now who aren't missing bats. Will Smith isn't missing bats. Nick Anderson has completely forgotten how to miss bats. I'm really intrigued by a young man who sounds like an accountant. In fact, when you Google him, the 4th result that comes up is literally somebody who is an accountant by the same name. Walter Pennington was named the International League Pitcher of the Week this last week. Left-handed pitcher. He worked 6 1/3 scoreless innings in relief last week, struck out 12, didn't walk anybody, and allowed only 1 hit. He's got 62 strikeouts in 39 relief innings. Well, 39 innings. He's made some short burst starts. But 39 innings, 62 strikeouts so far in AAA. A late bloomer. Like me, he's a Coloradan. Colorado School of Mines. You know, he's a smart guy.
Yeah, I was just going to say our friends at Royals Review had this in March 5th, a look at the Royals' dark horse lefty reliever, Walter Pennington.
Well, he might be worth a look because that is, unless the Royals are going to make a trade immediately, they got to find out if they can find some guys in the late innings, particularly if they're going to come in dirty innings with runners on base who can miss a bat. Because when you don't miss bats, those innings like the 8th on Friday night against the Padres, those happen way too often for anybody's comfort. Christopher YouTube says the trust tree is leafless. The cicadas have eaten the leaves off of the trust tree. It's been a rough week for the Royals bullpen, that's for sure.
Yeah.
We'll have a lot more to talk about with the Royals as they start their series against the Guardians tomorrow on tomorrow's show. We're going to take a break here. Come back with some more 580 Sports Talk after this. All of us here in the Kansas Drive to Zero studio invite you to join Fans with a Plan. If you're going to be drinking, always have a designated driver. Use your rideshare app or plan ahead for a sober ride home. We've had a couple of people ask, and we don't know the answer yet, but the game dates and times for Kansas State baseball in the super regional round against Virginia have not yet been announced because the regionals themselves are not yet over. They end tonight, and then the NCAA and their network partners will schedule the super regionals. So it will either be Friday or Saturday that K-State plays game 1. Then the day after will be game 2 of the best of 3. And then either Sunday or Monday will be game 3 if necessary. If the Royals schedule allows, we will broadcast those games here on 580 WIBW, but if there is a conflict, unfortunately, we'll have to direct you to KStateSports.com or the Varsity Network app for K-State baseball action on the radio. Obviously, it's a big Royals series coming up, and on tomorrow's show, we'll have a preview of how the Royals match up with the Cleveland Guardians. It's a bona fide big series for the Royals. I don't know if we've ever, other than just tongue-in-cheek, really previewed a Royals series since I've been on this show starting in September of 2016. Like, whenever they would play the Rockies, I'd jokingly break it down because that's my team. And whenever they play the Cubs, Brendan would break that down. But, like, no, this is a real live, big, impactful series that it matters how the Royals do in these 3 games at Progressive Field. We're going to break it all down on tomorrow's show. We hope you'll join us from 2 to 5 tomorrow. Final word coming up next here on 580 Sports Talk. Wrapping up, walking off this Monday edition of 580 Sports Talk with the final word. Before we get there, I want to tell you that Alpha Media is proud to partner with the Kansas Drive to Zero Coalition and encourage you to join Kansas fans with a plan. Always have a designated driver or other sober ride to and from your destination. Visit kansasdrivetozero.com. Spencer, lead us off with a final word.
A lot of bat and ball sports to keep an eye out here in this area of late. Shout out to Najee Kennedy. What she's been doing is crazy.
She's a baller.
She's a baller. She hit it off her knee. It didn't look good at all. I didn't think she was going to at least start the game yesterday. I thought they may have put her in relief, but yeah, shout out to her. National Player of the Year. Hopefully they can continue tonight and go to the World Series finals.
Got to win twice.
Yeah.
Not going to be easy. Texas took their measure the first time around. Texas is the number 1 team in the country for a reason. But if anybody can do it, I'd back the National Player of the Year in the circle to make it happen in a big way for Stanford tonight. Should be fun to watch one way or another. Final word for me today. 2 quick final words. Number 1, congrats again to the Kansas State Wildcats baseball team. First time in 11 years going to a super regional. They dominated. They didn't just win the Fayetteville Regional. They dominated the regional. They beat an unbeatable at-home Arkansas team and an untouchable pitcher in Hagen Smith on Saturday night. Rolled over SEMO. Didn't play with their food on Sunday. Tremendous accomplishment for Pete Hughes' group to get to a super regional. It's going to be fun to watch them take on Virginia this coming weekend. And a shout out to the Royals and their tendency to be hard to beat in the late innings. They're a bit like cockroaches. They've been hard to kill in the late innings. And even though some of their rallies in this stretch where they've lost 6 of 8 have been fruitless, Sunday's wasn't. And it is very, very imperative to get a happy flight to Cleveland ahead of the biggest Royals regular season series in at least 7 years. And that is what the Royals accomplished.
Also, shout out to the Royals fans that are finally starting to fill up Kauffman Stadium.
Yeah,
again.
great crowds this weekend. 30,000 Friday night, 25,000 plus on Saturday. Really good crowds. Although they were really there for the bobblehead on Saturday.
But
right?
still.
Yeah, no, it was great. They were great crowds. That's going to do it for this edition of 580 Sports Talk. Some configuration of the show will be on from 2 to 5 tomorrow. Maybe me, maybe not. We'll find out. It is my wife's due date. So if I'm not here, then I'll talk to you in a little while. If I am here, we'll talk to you tomorrow. Until then, for Trenton and Spencer, I'm Dan Lucero from the Drive to Zero studio. This is 580 Sports Talk.